Where are so many monsters? In the sky, the group of monks who intended to attack Xuanxia escaped the siege. Outside the regiment, a monk of Xuanxia with a horse face saw the scene and said with a tremble, "Brother 63, look there, it's the Holy Wing clan." At this time, it was Yi Tian's order that 36 Kunlun practitioners of the array appeared. When a monk with horseface saw Kunlun monk's characteristic figure for the first time, he couldn't help exclaiming, "Why? How did Kunlun Shou get involved?" The friar with horseface could not help changing his face. "For a moment, I didn't know how to deal with it." In the battlefield, the situation is changing rapidly. In the blink of an eye, under the siege of Xuanxia, Yunzhong and other monsters, the monk of Xuanxia suffered a large area of damage. In the blink of an eye, 6 or 7 people had died in the siege of the Terran and the monster. The remaining people rushed left and right. However, the 5-level monster was not afraid of death, and all of them used the suicide attack. In this way, the trapped monk of the Xuanxia family was in a bad situation. No friar is willing to exchange his life for the life of a worthless monster. In this way, the way many monsters fight has become a kind of protection for themselves. The suicide attack of dozens of monsters has made the surrounded friars blindly dodge so as not to be dismembered by the beasts. What to do? The friar next to Ma Lian asked anxiously. Wait till the reinforcements arrive. Don't move on the side of the Holy Wing clan for a moment, start with the dark crack first. Seeing the fierce war, monk Ma Lian didn't join the regiment rashly. If he took action, hundreds of monsters and 11 monks in the Holy Land would be well off, and they would probably divide and encircle themselves, and they would also be in danger. On the battlefield, the calmest is Yi Tian's side. The Skylock array starts, and the powerful transparent shield encircles the 11 monks who come after him. At the moment of being trapped, the 11 monks launch a fierce attack on the shield. In a flash, 36 Kunlun practitioners showed their bodies. Looking at him with flesh wings, pale eyes and sharp claws, he looked as if he was human, but the 11 monks stopped attacking immediately. In Lanzhou, who doesn't know the Xingyi people? Even if you have not seen the Xingyi people with your own eyes, you have heard about the Xingyi people and know the characteristics of the Xingyi people. In particular, the monks who have been cultivated to the realm of deification, who are not experienced and extremely rich, have formed a fixed concept in everyone's heart. The Holy Wing people should not be offended easily. Because there are many precedents that prove the tragic result of offending the Holy Wing. However, when launching the attack, no one thought that it was the Holy Wing people who trapped themselves with the field shield. None of the 11 monks dared to attack rashly, but they kept moving slowly towards the center in the field, and talked with each other in a low voice. At this time, Ko Yuanshuan, who was holding the main array flag, said, the Holy Wing people, have always been the teachers of civilization. If you wait in it, the Holy Wing people will not embarrass you. If you fight against the Holy Wing people again, I will regard you as fighting against the Holy Wing people. Ko Yuanshuan's words of raising the banner to make tiger skin are exactly the words of Yi Tianzhou. Seeing Kunlun Shougong's appearance, he received such a deterrent effect. How can Yi Tian not give full play to this advantage? 36 Kunlun practitioners seem to have set up the field of the heaven-locked array, but their accomplishments are too low and their magic power is too weak. If only 3 or 2 of them are trapped, they may be able to support for a long time. This time, however, 11 monks of the spirit realm were trapped. If they attack the field shield with all their strength, the energy loss of the shield will be far greater than the energy supplement of the field shield. According to Yi Tian's estimation, it should only last 30 to 40 breath at most, and the field shield will be in danger of being broken. As a result, Yi Tian had an idea to attack the heart. It worked. War on the Holy Wing? What a big hat. The 11 monks trapped in the field shield looked at each other, and no one dared to rush into it. They fell into a deadlock. There is no danger on this side for the time being, and Yi Tian pays more attention to another battlefield. Xuanxia and Yunzhong have already gained an overwhelming advantage. In the fierce fighting of many monsters, Xuanxia and Yunzhong have made great achievements. At this time, compared with before, the combat effectiveness of the 2 men was directly improved by 1 level, and their lethality was more terrible than before. Come and go like wind, hand like electricity, Xuanjia friars in the two people's frequent hand. The situation is extremely miserable. From time to time someone fell.
Still waiting? The friar with horse face asked anxiously. I'll be here in a dozen more.
The friar with horse face said with an open mind.
More than 10? In 10 minutes' time, all those people will be wiped out? The monk looked more anxious.
Go, if you don't want to wait, go and kill that young man. He broke into the family space and rescued the mysterious crack. The friar with horse face pointed to Tian in the distance and said with a heavy face.
Well, I'll go. It's better than watching people get killed. The friar really nodded and said a word.
His body moved around the big battle circle and came to Tian. At this time, Tian is paying attention to the situation here. He has already found out that the people of the Xian family dare not do anything to these Kunlun. He simply uses the hidden killing technique again, and his figure disappears in the air. The friar rushed to the front and lost the trace of Tian. He took a look at Kunlun Shou, who was in charge of the ceremony.
He really didn't dare to do it. Boom!
Just at this time, a roar was heard, and the mysterious crack, which was always related to Tian's safety, came to meet him with a flash of his body. The sword in his hand sent out a strong sound of wind explosion and cut him down. Seeing that Shin crack was so powerful, the man's face changed, his body suddenly turned into a light, and he was about to shoot in the distance. 6 or 7 monsters were fighting against him. This person claps one hand at one of the tiger beasts, while the other bear beast's terrible meat palm is also clapped at the same time. If this person still attacks the tiger beast inconveniently, he can't escape the 5th level bear beast's palm. Even if the tiger can be seriously injured, he will be hurt by the bear. Such a lost business, this man will not do, but he wants to fly up to the sky.
But since then, the mysterious crack followed.
The half-immortal soldier's flying sword in his hand turned into a sword curtain and cut it in the air. A terrible sword just stood on the man's waist. When the sword passed by, 2 corpses were sprayed with blood and fell down. Even his Yuanying was killed by Xuanxia's sword. At this time, the fierce battle on the battlefield was coming to an end. More than 20 Xuanjiawa monks in Xinjing had been killed and injured, and only 4 of them were still dying. They were all covered with scars, and they were struggling for no more than a long time. Old 14th, withdraw from the battle for the division, you organize the encirclement and killing. Seeing that his own side has completely grasped the initiative of the battlefield, Tian wants to kill the 11 monks who are trapped in the formation. But as soon as the words come out, he hastens to say again, Old 14, don't take care of this side. There are the great monks of Yupu realm, and set up the 8-pole formation. When he was transmitting the sound, his eyes saw that there were several ripples in the sky, and then out of the ripples came a big red-faced old man. Xuanxie had already seen this situation, and quickly used his reclusive skill to disappear from the original place. Meanwhile, Yunzhong and Huang Yanxiu, the 6 monks of the Xuanjia family, also disappeared. The only 2 people who can't hide in the field are the 2 guests of the Cloud family. They have also seen the red-faced great friar of Yupujing appear. Under Yi Tian's voice, he shoots to the field of Suotang Array.
Yi Tian is not sure whether the red-faced Yupu monk will attack Kunlun Xiu.
He already holds the mask and is ready to wear it on his face at any time. Seeing the direction of the 2 Yanjiokecking, the red-faced Yupujing friar hesitated a little, and suddenly there was a buzzing sound. An 8-column field shield appeared beside him, and the range was shrinking from 2 to 3 li. The larger the field shield is, the more mana it consumes.
If the mana is insufficient, the shield will become weak.
Without the opportunity to set up the 8-pole field in close range, the 8 men surrounded the red-faced monk from a distance, and then quickly changed the formation and reduced the field. Trapped in the 8-pole array, the red-faced old man glanced at the field shield and gave a scornful sneer. A white long gun appeared out of the air in his hand at random, and stabbed the field shield with the powerful momentum that made the situation change. This shot is not terrible, and its attack power is also very strong. However, under this terrible blow, the field shield only slightly shakes and deforms, and then returns to its original state. The red-faced old man uttered a light voice, put away his contempt, and his face became dignified. The white gun in his hand burst out a strong momentum again, and launched a stormy attack on the field shield. Xuanxie and others hold the array flag and input mana crazily. Although the shield is unstable, it never breaks. Kill. At this time, the horse-faced monk in the distance suddenly saw that the big monk of Yupu came to help him. Although there was no one to kill Xuanxie for the time being, he attracted Xuanxie, Yunzhong and others. He gave a loud drink and directed the more than 200 Yuan Jing monks who had just arrived to rush to the side of the crack. The purpose is very direct. As long as you kill anyone on the side of Xuanxie, the field shield will be broken. Once the red-faced Yupu monk gets out of the field, there should be no suspense about this battle. As long as you kill Xuanxie, you'll be finished. As for the affairs of the Xingyi clan, it's natural for the great friars of Yupu realm to deal with them. As soon as they moved, 500 monsters, Yunzhong and 2 guests of the Yun family, came to intercept them. The two sides collided with each other in an instant, and the war broke out again in an instant. Old 14, release another 100 monsters. The invisible Yi Tian sees that although he still has the advantage to stop most of the Xuanjia monks, he has 20 monks who have already been on guard against many monsters. Covering each other, the 4 monks of Xuanjiawa's divine realm broke through and went straight to attack Xuanxie. Yi Tian immediately said. Xuanxie nodded silently, and continued to push the magic power into the array flag in his hand. However, his mind moved. He locked down 100 monsters and released them at one time. He rushed madly to the 4 monks who came. There's a backhand. Among the 4 monks, the horse-faced monk suddenly saw 105 level monsters appear again. He could not help but change his face. He said that his body burst up and flew away. The other 3, too, chose to avoid fighting. The mysterious crack looks cold, and controls 50 monsters to reinforce Yunzhong, while the other 50 monsters are guarding outside the shield, ready to deal with the Xian family friars who come to sneak attack at any time. Master, Xuanji has come in person with more than 30 monks of Huaxinjing and more than 100 monks of Yuanyingjing. They should arrive after 100 breath. As soon as he retreated from the enemy, Yi Tian heard the anxious sound of the dark crack. Is there a decisive battle? Yi Tian is also tight in his heart. If Xuanji does it in person, will Xuanwu, the great monk of Yupu realm, do it, and the old monster of settling down? You're not going to stand by, are you? If a great friar in Yupu is okay, if he faces 3 great friars, the situation will be out of his control. With this in mind, Yi Tian had no time to think more about it. With a gesture, he released the magic weapon cave, and more than 60 Kunlun practitioners emerged from it. Protect the Baji field. If someone attacks you, don't fight. Come back to my cave quickly. Yi Tian whispered a command, then waved to them. 60 Kunlun practitioners heard and did not speak. Between the flapping wings behind them, they had come to the outside of the 8-pole field. Old 14, all the top 50 monsters in the field joined the battle group. When the mystery arrives, release another 50 monsters to block. Yi Tian sent out an order to Xin Crack, and then sent a message to Yunzhong, saying, Old 15, when Xin Ji's group arrived, all the other 250 monsters were released. They will stop Xin Ji's group at any cost, regardless of death or injury. After the 2 orders were issued one after another, Yi Tian, who was invisible, continued to observe the situation of the war. This is not the time to release all the monsters. We must leave this part of the reserve team to wait for the opportunity to come. Otherwise, once something unexpected happens, it will be too late to withdraw the support. With the addition of Xuanxie, 105 level monsters, Yunzhong has a greater advantage and has completely controlled the situation. Yi Tianheng measured it for a while. After Baishi, the mystery came. There were more than 30 monks in Huaxinjing and more than 100 monks in Yuanyingjing. However, he still had 400 5th-level monsters that he didn't use. He should be able to compete with them. At that time, Yunzhong can also draw out his fighting power to support him, but the trapped great monk in Yupu was not easy to deal with. Yi Tian takes a look at the golden eye god carving in the sky. It is still hovering in the sky above his head. It seems that only by removing this carving can he get away safely. After performing small move, he will not be found by this carving.
By that time, even if Xuanji didn't die, his whole army would have been greatly weakened. Xuanxie would have won the support of Xuanmu, and the situation would be much clearer. However, when Tian was staring at the black spot in the sky and meditating on countermeasures, he was surprised to find that there were ripples in the sky not far from the golden eye statue. Where the ripples started, a monk appeared. Seeing this man's appearance, Tian was shocked. The man finally came. Here comes an old man with a wrinkled face, a long eyebrow hanging upside down, a cold expression on his face, standing in the sky overlooking the battlefield below. Master, old Jing is coming. Prepare to withdraw. We can't cope with the two great friars in Yupu. At this time, the Shin crack has also found that this person appears, and says to Tian in a hurry. It's too late. In his sight, the old Jing monster only pauses in the sky, and then slowly lands down. The target is Yunzhong Man and a group of monsters, but he doesn't pay attention to the two field shields with Kunlun repair. After Tianxian finished this sentence in a hurry, his figure suddenly flashed up, and the mask he had prepared had been put on his face. This is also the most helpless choice. If you run away in a hurry, I'm afraid you will be attacked by the other party before you gather up your hands. Especially if Xuanxie and others release the red-faced Great Friar of Yupujing again, the two Great Friars of the other party will surely enter a desperate situation with the cooperation of the Golden Eye God carving. However, Tian has been waiting for so long, but there is still no strong one of the holy wings. Master, he's a great monk in Yupu, you're not an opponent. See Tian unexpectedly face Jing Old Strange to rush to sky, Shin crack anxious to shout away. Act according to the original plan. When the mystery comes, release the monster and trap the red-faced old monster. I'll give this old Jing monster to you. Yi Tianxi is not moved by Xuanxia's reminding. After saying this, he speeds up and greets the old Jing monster. At this time, he had already felt that the terrible power from the grimace mask was all over his body, and his whole body was full of magic power. In a moment, he even had the degree of turning into the top of the divine realm. Wearing the mask of grimace can promote 3 realms. He is now in the Longmen realm. The first realm is the golden elixir realm, the second realm is the Yuanying realm, and the third realm is just the spirit transforming realm. However, it is still not enough to regard the cultivation of the spirit realm as the great monk of the Jade Pu realm. But Tian rushed up with cold eyes, and said, Jingluguai, do you want to be the enemy of Xingyi clan? If you leave at this time, you can let bygones be bygones. If you insist on going your own way, you will be too late to repent. Originally, old Jing didn't notice Tian, until Tian rushed to the sky, he just looked at it. Hearing what Tian said, old Jing sneered and said, do you want to pretend to be the Holy Wing clan? Do you have wings? Even so, Jingluguai has more reverie about Yetian's identity, but he still ignores Yetian and flies to Yunzhong and others. He knew that those people in Yunzhong must have nothing to do with the Holy Wing clan, and there was no future trouble after killing them. Seeing that he was so ignored, Tian's eyes coagulated and said again, Old Jing monster, on the sea, the Bramble Wuji and others were killed by me. Do you dare to take revenge? You. It's you. Listen to Tian say so, especially Tian directly point out the place to kill Jing Wucai. Jing old monster suddenly hair flying, eyes like Han Bingdi burst to Tian. Tian does not retreat, but advances. He also confronts Jing Leagui. Master. Don't. Master. Use the little moving symbol. See this situation, almost at the same time, Xian Crack and Cloud Zhong all send out hysterical cry. Master? I can't believe that you have been reduced to such a situation. You should be taught by a boy in Longmen realm. How can he use the secret method of temporarily improving cultivation? Can you really resist the blow of the Great Friar of Yupu realm? Just at this time, dozens of monks in the distance were flying away, and more than 100 black spots appeared behind them, but they were still far away. At first, a middle-aged man with white skin and evil face snorted coldly when he saw the scene. It's the master of the Xian family. Xuanji. Xuanxie and Yunzhong feel even worse when they see each other's reinforcements coming again, but they release the last 400 monsters in the spirit beast ring in an instant according to Tian's instructions.
Many spirit beasts suddenly appear in the air, get the command of Xuanxie and Yunzhong, and rush to Xuanji in a flash. At this time, in the sky, Jing Leigui is getting closer to Yi Tian. At a certain moment, his face is gloomy. He pinches the formula, and a huge sword shadow appears out of thin air and cuts off Yi Tian. Sword shadow is not a real flying sword. It's just a Taoist art transformed by magic power. However, it is full of great momentum and gives off shivering power. Just when everyone thought that Yi Tian was absolutely unable to avoid the lightning-like sword, in the void between Jing Leigui and Yi Tian, suddenly many sword lights burst out and emerged out of thin air. A cold light twinkled around Jing Leigui. The huge sword of Taoism was turned into a light curtain by a piece of sword light. It was suddenly broken and turned into a little streamer. Almost at the same time, the light of the sword joined to form a sword curtain, and shot at the trapped Jing Leigui in a flash. The sword curtain in all directions seemed to be closed at the same time. In the blink of an eye, it had already arrived at Jing Leigui's side. As a great monk in Yupu realm, Jing Leigui's calm face suddenly changed. He had already felt an extremely dangerous breath, and he was about to move away. However, he was shocked to find that all the spaces in all directions were surrounded by the sword curtain, and there was no way to retreat. In a twinkling, a flying sword suddenly appeared in his hand and cut down towards the sword curtain like thunder. Unexpectedly, the sword curtain that closed in a twinkling just shook a little and gave out a dazzling light like the sun. In a twinkling, it was closed together. And the old Jing monster had turned into countless pieces when the curtain of sword light was closed from all sides, and it fell down like blood rain in the air. All the people present were shocked to see the scene. They couldn't believe what had happened before. A great monk in Yupu realm, who had no resistance, was killed by a monk in Longmen realm in a short time by using a secret method? At this time, Yi Tian is also extremely frightened in his heart. He can't imagine that this big Shumi sword array is so terrible. But he didn't have time to immerse himself in the wonderful feeling of killing the great monk in Yupu realm. Instead, he stretched out his hand. Sumi Jie of Jing Leigui was called into his hand, and then his figure flashed, and he was out of the field shield of the 8-pole array arranged by Xuanxie and others. The sword light of killing Jing Leigui followed him and flashed in the air, which surrounded the field shield and gave off dazzling light. Withdraw. Feeling the surging mana in the body is receding a little bit, Yi Tian and the sword light fly to the moment, a big drink. Because it was too urgent, the voice was as loud as Hongzhong and Dalu. Hearing the sound, Xuanxie and others felt a chill in their hearts. Without any hesitation, they withdrew the array flag at the same time. Don't have something to say. With the removal of the array flag, the shield disappeared without a trace. The red-faced Yupujing friar had seen that Jing Leigui was killed by this terrible sword array before, so he moved away at the moment when the shield disappeared, but suddenly found that although the shield disappeared, it was replaced by a large dazzling sword curtain. In the heart terrified under, hurriedly shout aloud. However, this sentence has not been finished yet. The sword light in all directions has shrunk together in a flash, and the terrible sword light seems to be invincible. Although this person's body is extremely strong, it can't resist. Just like Jing Leigui, the red-faced old man also turned into a pile of broken meat and fell down one after another when the dazzling sword curtain closed. Seeing this, Xuanji's face changed greatly. He could not care for others immediately. He was about to leave here from the siege of many monsters. But at this time, Xianxia was shocked, but his body turned into a remnant shadow and flew away to Xianxia. His flying sword turned into 3 zhang long sword and cut off Xuanji's retreat. Kill. Yi Tian gave a loud drink to the other people who had just withdrawn from the 8-pole array. When those people flew out, he motioned and another drop of nature liquid was sent to the entrance. At this time, he felt that the energy of Grimace Mask was about to run out, and his own mana was also running out. At the entrance of the liquid of creation, the mana of Dantian expands rapidly and returns to the peak state soon. But this state is just the state of the late Longmen realm. The power just gained from the Grimace Mask has disappeared. Rao is so satisfied, and Yi Tian is also very satisfied. He can't imagine that after entering the peak of Huashan realm through Grimace Mask, he can easily kill 2 great friars in Yupu realm with the help of Domitian sword array. What's more,
the opponent can't even perform the big move. Unfortunately, this time is too short. Just that kind of arrogant world feeling, it is too nostalgic. Domitian's sword array really deserves its reputation. It's so powerful. If you can use this sword array by virtue of Longmen realm cultivation, your actual combat power will be greatly improved. But now just think about it. Yi Tian's mind moved. 32 short swords turned into swordlights and flew back into the elixir field. Then he looked around at the situation. Because the two great friars in Yupu realm were killed by Yi Tian one after another, Xuanji and his gang had completely lost their fighting spirit and were trying to escape. The battle situation has shown a one-sided situation. Nearly 1,000 monsters are powerful and brave. There is no doubt about the number of winners and losers. Seeing that Xuanji group has been completely besieged by many monks and monsters, as long as the time is enough, they will be able to do all the work in one net. At this time, Yi Tian was surprised to find that two aura ripples appeared in the sky again. The two ripples were very close, and they had already affected each other and rippled together. Then out of the confusion of aura ripples came two old men. One of them was dressed in linen, with sunken cheeks and loose skin, and looked extremely old, while the other had prominent cheekbones, gray hair, white robes and big sleeves. Two people suddenly appeared, just as the whole field swept by, then fell on the leaf day body. Yi Tian, who had put the mask away, took it out again and held it in his hand, with a dignified face. His Demi Tian sword array can deal with one great monk in Yupu realm. If he can deal with two at the same time, he is not sure that he can encircle the other in the array. What's more, he has only one last chance. If it's not a last resort, he will never use it easily again. At this time, in addition to the 36 Kunlun practitioners who were still arranging the Skylock array, the other 60 Kunlun practitioners all fluttered their wings slightly and flew to Yi Tian's body in a flash to protect Yi Tian. Yi Tian's heart warms up, but these Kunlun practitioners have just recovered to the Golden Elixir realm. At this critical moment, they stand up and protect themselves without hesitation. They are totally willing to die. Just as Yi Tian's eyes were shining, ready to use the mask for the last time, he heard the old man with high cheekbones say to another old man, Xuanwu, do you really want to ignore the rules of the clan and intervene in this matter? Xuanwu, don't always threaten me with the rules of the clan. Why don't I come to save my children? The old man with sunken cheeks snorted coldly with a gloomy face. Although the mouth said so, this person is on the high altitude, no action, just eyes gloomy staring at Yi Tian, looks rather scared. Wu Laozu, help me below. Xuanji, who has been attacked by Xuanxie and others, sees Xuanwu and shouts. Yi Tian's body flashed and flew to the high altitude for a certain distance. He hummed coldly, Xuanwu, if you dare to fight, you are Ye's enemy. Yi doesn't mind killing you here. Yellow-mouthed child, you are not ashamed. Xuanwu said, and his eyes shifted from Yi Tian to those Kunlun practitioners, but he saw that the Kunlun practitioners were also moving and protecting Yi Tian again. If you want to move our Shizu, step on our corpses first. Many Kunlun practitioners said in unison. Xuanwu stared at those Kunlun show with wings, his face constantly changing, and he didn't know what he was thinking. A moment later, his eyes moved away from Kunlun's self-cultivation, and he looked at Xuanzi in the fierce battle. In a low voice, he said, Xuanxie, stop it. Do you want to collude with other people and create a rebellion against Xuanjia? Xuanxie didn't answer, or even was not moved by Xuanwu's words. The sword in his hand suddenly cut Xuanji with all his mana. He was besieged for a moment before, and Xuanji was full of danger. Xuanxia's sword was extremely frightening. Xuanji immediately raised his sword to parry. The two swords collided with each other, and the powerful impact force directly hit Xuanji. More than a dozen monsters jumped up in a flash. Suddenly, Xuanji's body was spattered with blood, adding more than a dozen wounds. Seeing this, Xuanwu moved and rushed to Xuanji, but he didn't know how Xuanwu, who was already on guard, could not see how his body changed. However, he stopped in front of Xuanwu and cried out, You are the same son of Xuanwu family. You should not go too far. You told me the same thing before. The internal affairs of Xuanwu family are left to their children to handle. If you interfere in them, don't blame me for disobeying the clan rules. Then I'll kill this son first. Xuanwu knew that there was Xuanmu in front of him. He couldn't save Xuanji in any way. He immediately looked at his body and shot straight at Yi Tian. Before he arrived, he was furious with Yi Tian with his sword. Many Kunlun shogun just saw that Yi Tian was weak. When Yi Tian was no longer able to fight back, dozens of Kunlun shogun immediately went to Xuanwu's flying sword with their own magic weapons. Xuanwu didn't dare to really fight Kunlun Xiu. Seeing many Kunlun Xiu, he suddenly drew back his sword, and his body suddenly flashed. After many Kunlun Xiu, he once again chopped at Yi Tian. Kung! Yi Tian was surprised. Just as he wanted to put on the mask again, he suddenly saw a golden gun flying out of thin air. The gun was strong and fast, and shot on the sword impartially. Xuanwu's flying sword suddenly deviated and flew out horizontally. As like as 2 peas of air, there are almost a dozen of the great monks who have emerged from the sky without any sign. These great priests have a pair of meat wings, which are exactly the same as those of Kunlun. Xuanwu! How dare you fight against the Xingyi people? Are you tired of living? One of them, a big holy winger, made a gesture. His golden gun flew back and disappeared in front of him. Then he didn't see how he was doing. His body had already come to Xuanwu in a flash, and there were 3 other holy wingers who passed with him. Their movements were as quick as they could react. I think you have misunderstood the Taoist friends of the Xingyi people. I didn't attack the Xingyi people, but the friars of that people. The people of the Xingyi people want to protect him. Do you have any misunderstanding? Xuanwu's tone softened, and he was obviously weak. Misunderstanding? If it wasn't for my shot, Xuanmu, what do you think of my Holy Wing people? The burly Xingyi people's face sank, and they didn't see any black. The fierce light in their eyes made people shiver. Then they turned their head and looked at Xuanmu. Xuanmu, there's nothing for you here. You can step back. Xuanmu nodded slightly, and his figure moved. He was more than 20 feet away. At this time, he was also very surprised. The great friars of Xingyi clan seemed to know the people of Xuanjia very well, and could tell the names of himself and Xuanwu, but he knew nothing about them. This time, the Xingyi clan had 18 great friars at one time, which exceeded the number of Yupu realm that appeared at the same time in the past. It can be seen that the Xingyi clan attached great importance to these people. What's more, it's still a mystery how many great friars there are in the Holy Wing clan, which is more mysterious than the Xuanjia clan. He couldn't help looking at Yi Tian secretly. He was also very worried. He didn't know what relationship he had with the Xingyi people. The Xingyi people called him their grandmaster and protected him with their lives. How could Xuanxia know him and recognize him as a master? The relationship seems very complicated. He and Xuanwu had seen some things before, but Xuanwu prevented him from interfering at that time. It was not until Yi Tianlian killed 2 old Jing monsters and 2 great friars in Rohai and Yupujing that Xuanwu came here. At this time, Xuanmu was not thinking about the life and death of Xuanwu, a great monk in Yupu, but about the fate of the whole family. The Xingyi clan is much more powerful than the legendary one. There is no suspense to destroy the Xuanjia clan. If you have something to say, you can discuss everything. Looking at the posture of the Xingyi people, Xuanwu was in a hurry to discuss with each other. At this time, he is seen dead by the 4 Yupu monks of the Xingyi people, and even can't use the big move skill. Do it! The big monk of the Holy Wing clan was not moved at all. Suddenly, his voice cheered coldly. With his voice, the other 3 monks started at the same time, with sharp claws and the roaring sound of the wind, and grasped Xuanwu at the same time. Xuanwu's face was cold, and a flying sword appeared in his hand. He cut it around crazily, but he cried out, "Xuanmu, do you want to die?" Xuanmu took a look at the 14 great friars of the Holy Wing clan not far away, and turned his face to one side in silence. If he started again at this time, it would be like the Xuanmu family fighting against the Holy Wing clan. Moreover, the most important thing is that his position is not consistent with Xuanwu's. Kung! A crisp sound of gold and iron came out, and the sharp claws of a slightly emaciated great friar of the Holy Wing clan beat the sword body with terrible power and swung it open. The other claw was straight into Xuanwu's shoulder. The other two great friars of the Holy Wing clan, one clawed Xuanwu's rib, while the other smashed into Dantian. Ka! With several voices, Xuanwu's shoulder, rib and abdomen almost spattered with blood at the same time, which was won by the three great friars of the Holy Wing clan at the same time. In particular, the as like as two peas in the jade belly, the sharp claws, and the back of the lower abdomen, they had already held a baby with exactly the same face and the same as the Xianwu. The sharp tip of the paw was forced to knead and burst into a stash of meat. My Yuan baby. Xuanwu's face suddenly changed, and his breath was depressed. When his body was about to fall, he was grabbed by a great friar of the Holy Wing clan, and the sharp tip of his claw went directly into his shoulder bone. You go on. Just a few words decide the fate of a great monk in Yupu realm of Xuanjia. However, the big monk of Xingyi clan, as if nothing had happened, said something to Xuanjia and flew to Tian. Since the appearance of these great friars of the Holy Wing clan, all the fighting places have stopped completely. Xuanxie and others trapped more than 100 remaining friars, such as Xuanji, and did not fight again. Xuanji and others also took advantage of this opportunity to breathe for a moment, and did not rush to break through again, but he knew very well in his heart that it was absolutely impossible to break through. There's no need to kill them, just abandon their accomplishments. After a look at the great friars of the Holy Wing clan, Xuanmu's mind turned quickly. He had to take a look at Xuanxie again and said it out loud. As he spoke, his figure moved. He had come to the crack and talked to the crack for a moment. Until the crack nodded, Xuanmu looked at the mystery with a relaxed look. Xuanji, do you want Xuanxie to do it, or do you want to do it yourself? No, please let us off this time. We only participated in this matter by following the call of your Xian family? Before the mystery could speak, a monk with a black mole on his face was the first to shout. And we are the muddy waters that follow your Xian family. The ancestors of the Xian family can't cross the river and tear down the bridge. There are several other people also with shouting, these people are to follow the mystery together. Cloud home? Jing family? Settle down? Xuanmu's eye swept over those people, and his eyes showed a cold expression. It's only aimed at the children of the Xuanjia family who follow the Xuanji. As for your fate, or even the fate of your family, it's all up to Xuanxie. No, you can't. After hearing Xuanmu say that, those people immediately showed their fear. Everyone knew that if they were dealt with by Xuanjia, their fate would be extremely miserable. No matter how these people plead, Xuanmu has ignored them, but stares at Xuanji coldly. I'm not reconciled. Xuanji's face changed after a while. Suddenly, he gave a big drink, and his body rose to the sky. He wanted to escape from here. Xuanmu waved a wind blade, and the terrible wind blade cut Xuanji's knee instantly. With a click, Xuanji's two legs were all cut off from below the knee, and Xuanmu's figure had come to Xuanji's body in a flash, and clapped his hand on his dantian. If you break it by yourself, you can still keep your legs. That's what you don't want to end up with. Xuanmu claps his palm on Xuanji's elixir field, and his powerful mana penetrates the body, shattering Xuanji's yuanying. With the destruction of yuanying, the mysterious magic power immediately leaked out, his face turned pale and his body was about to fall. Xuanmu grabs Xuanji in his hand and looks at other Xuanjia's children. His face says coldly, do you want me to do it or do it by myself? Let's end it on our own. A monk of Xuanjiawa's divine realm mumbled a few times and said dejectedly. He raised his hand and patted it on his own dantian. Then a painful expression appeared on his face, and his facial features became a little twisted. Although he was still unwilling, he could at least keep his whole body. Otherwise, he knew that mystery was an example. Xuanmu. Don't go too far. Xuanwu, whose cultivation had been abandoned, was also held by a great monk of the Holy Wing clan. His face was gray. He looked at Xuanmu with a look of resentment in his eyes. Xuanwu, you don't listen to my advice and connive at Xuanmu's evils, which leads to the disintegration of Xuanmu's family. You have no forgiveness for your sins. Do you still say that I'm too much? Xuanmu snorted coldly, then ignored this man and looked at other Xuanjia children. Xuanwadu has come to such an end, and Xuanji's cultivation has been abolished.
The rest of the Xuanji's children know that it will be difficult to escape today. In order not to be like Xuanji, not only his cultivation has been abolished, but also his limbs have been disabled. They have to do it by themselves. They have abandoned their own cultivation and become useless people. More than 40 children of the Xian family broke up on their own, and Xuanmu looked at the crack, the rest of you, deal with it by yourself.
Thank you, Mu Laozu.
Xuanxia thanks, and looks coldly at the monks outside the Xuanjia family at any time.
There are some people who settle down.
Since the red-faced old man in Rohai was killed by Yi Tian, these people are scared and regretful. The other part of them are the monks of the Yun family, who encircle Xuanxia and Yunzhong in order to please Xuanji. Some of them were from the Jing family and some of the monks who accepted the reward order and came to take refuge in the Xian family. Originally, these people thought that they would take advantage of the Xian family and hold the thigh of the Xian family. They just didn't expect that the situation would change so quickly. Originally, it was an encirclement and suppression without any risk. Now, it's for the sake of being slaughtered by others. At this time, their eyes were full of panic, and their bodies not only leaned back on each other, as if they could escape the disaster.
Third brother. Spare us. We are all members of the Cloud family.
One of them, a square-faced monk, looked at Yunzhong, who was like frost on one side. He was just another member of the Yun family. In terms of relationship, he should be called Yunzhong Yixing third brother. Yunfeng, now you know it's called the third brother.
When you came down to kill me, did you ever think that I was your third brother? Did you ever think that we were of the same race?
Yunzhong frowned and asked.
Do it.
Looking at his father-in-law's attitude, Xuanxia had no scruples. With a wave of his hand, nearly 1,000 5-level monsters swarmed up. He and Yunzhong also used their own means to kill the monks with different surnames. For a moment, blood splashed, limbs flying, it was a complete one-sided massacre scene. On the other side, just as Xuanmu was abandoning Xuanji cultivation, the big monk of Xingyi clan had come to Yi Tian. His eyes slowly swept through many Kunlunxiu, and finally fell on Yi Tian's face.
This little friend is practicing Sui Wanwen thought? Yes, the master has a brilliant eye. I'm just the idea of Sui Wanwen. Yi Tian nodded slightly. Ladies and gentlemen, may I take a step?
Listen to Yi Tian frankly admit, the great friar of the Holy Wing clan also nodded slightly, his eyes swept many Kunlun monasteries.
Those Kunlun practitioners looked at Yi Tian.
Yi Tian waved to the 36 Kunlunxiu who were still in the battle, and called out, "Withdraw from the battle." The 36 men immediately removed the array flag. With a little flap of their wings, they came to Yi Tian's side. The trapped 11 Zhuangjiawa monks in the field saw that the field shield was removed, and they flew away like electricity. At this time, the three figures were several times faster than they were. The remaining figures were the three great friars of the Holy Wing clan who were not far away. Yi Tian knew that with the help of these three great monks, none of them would be able to escape. He took 96 Kunlun practitioners with him and flew 20 or 30 miles away. Then he stopped.
I haven't appreciated your help yet. Yi Tian bows his fist.
The rest of the Kunlun monks also saluted the following 15 great friars of the Holy Wing family and said, "Thank you for your help."
Don't be polite.
I'm very glad to see so many people of the same race here today.
I am Lu Feng, the head of the Holy Wing clan in Lansong. Where do you come from?
The big friar of the Holy Wing clan laughed and said,
Elder Patriarch, this is our Grandmaster.
The Grandmaster is in front of us.
We didn't have the answer.
If you have anything to know, please ask the Grandmaster.
Ko Yuanshuan replied. Haha, I'm very glad that I still have my own style. The Xingyi people of all heaven and all regions are originally one family. This little friend was originally a human, but why did he become the ancestor of the Xingyi people? I'm still very interested to know.
Well, one by one Lu Feng, with a smile on his face, nodded again and again and looked at Yi Tian. I want to ask you first.
Who is your idea of Suihuang Temple? It's from Suihuang. Yi Tian returns directly. Suihuang?
The smile on Lu Feng's face suddenly converged,
his expression became dignified, his brow slightly wrinkled, his eyes with a puzzled expression asked, "Are you sure it's from Sui Huang himself?" Yi Tian hands gently spread, a helpless expression revealed no doubt. "I know, according to the truth, the elder may not believe it. However, this is the fact, it is indeed spread by Sui Huang himself." But at that time, Sui Huang was no longer a living Sui Huang, but a wisp of his old people's memory. According to the old man, this is the original version of the idea of Sui Huangwen. In addition, there is also an incomplete idea of Sui Huangwen that has been handed down to the world. This genuine idea of Sui Huangwen is the most perfect idea of Sui Huangwen, which makes up for the deficiency of the previous version. There is a genuine idea of Sui Huangwen. Yi Tian says that he wants to explain in detail so as to win the other party's trust. However, Lu Fang's face is excited when he hears the news. He looks so excited that his voice trembles. However, at that time, although the Sui Huang was a wisp of memory, the immortal body was the same. It was just that the Devil Emperor used the reincarnation array of life and death to steal Xian Yuan. The situation was extremely bad. But in the lower realm, I can't rescue the Sui Huang. Yi Tian said according to the facts. It's true that Sui Huang has already made immortal body. After listening to Yi Tian's words, Lu Fang couldn't help but be moved. Even the other 14 great friars of the Holy Wing clan around him also showed a surprised expression. Yi Tian nodded slightly. "Yes, it's all true. I guess the master's idea is Sui Huangwen's, right? However, it should be incomplete version, right? That's right. I guess it's true. What Xingyi people learn is the idea handed down by Sui Huang. Before, I always felt that something was wrong. When I was practicing in front of me, everything was fine. I didn't feel that anything was wrong. But when I got to Yupu, I couldn't make a breakthrough and go further. At first, I thought it was because of aura and other reasons, but after careful consideration by the ancestors of the clan, I finally found that there was a deficiency in the idea of Sui Huangwen, which delayed the entry of countless friars of Xingyi clan. I didn't expect to meet Xiaoyu today, but Xiaoyu got the true biography of Sui Huang and learned the original of Sui Huang's idea. Is all this the will of heaven in the dark? Lu Fang said excitedly. As soon as Yi Tianlu recalls the difference between the original and the remnant of Sui Huangwen's idea, he already knows what Lu Fang said is true. Although there are too many corrections and supplements made by Sui Huangwen in this skill book, they are all the key points. If you follow the incomplete idea of Sui Huangwen, when you reach Yupu realm, you will never break through to Tiangong realm. In fact, it's not just the incomplete version of Sui Huang's idea. How many kinds of skills can Zhu Tianwan you break through to Tiangong? Sometimes, breaking through the realm requires not only hard practice, but also the guidance of the Dharma. Otherwise, it is difficult to see the way to the heavenly palace. Since the Xingyi people are also the descendants of Sui Huang, the Xingyi people who follow me also cultivate the original idea of Sui Huang. I'll make a copy of the original for you. I think Sui Huang would like to see you learn the original and carry forward Sui Huang's idea. Thinking so, Yi Tian said with a smile. Lu Fang said with a happy look, in this case, the Holy Wing clan will surely remember the great kindness of Taoist friends. You're welcome, sir. We are all descendants of Sui Huang. At the same time, we should cultivate Sui Huang's ideas. We belong to a family. It's very interesting to say that. Yi Tianbai waved his hand and said. Lu Fang nodded slightly, then pondered, Sui Huang is the ancestor of our family on the road of cultivation, but you are the disciple of Sui Huang. Our Xingyi family is very particular about etiquette and seniority. No matter how old or young you are the ancestor of our family. Let's call it ancestor according to the name of these people. Yi Tian quickly waved his hand and politely refused, is it not appropriate to be so afraid? Although Yi was taught by Sui Huang, he didn't pay homage to his teacher with Sui Huang. It's not proper to call Yi this way. What's more, these people who followed me at that time were not allowed to call them that way, but they were too stubborn to call themselves that way, which led to the present situation. What the Grandmaster said is not the same. Although you and Sui Huang didn't practice the etiquette of master and apprentice, they have the reality of master and apprentice. If Sui Huang doesn't approve of you, how can you spread Sui Huang's idea? Our ancestors were also instructed by Sui Huang and handed down a copy of the idea of Sui Huang. Since then, the Xingyi people have recognized Sui Huang as their ancestors. My grandmaster is here. Please accept a gift from my disciples. With these words, Lu Fang and other 15 people, together with the other 3 people who had just chased back the Xian family's children, saluted Yi Tianxian. Yi Tianrai smile, you are why? Lu Fang stood up after the ceremony and said, ancestors should not be forgotten, rights should not be abolished, and laws should not be disordered. The Grandmaster doesn't have to be polite, otherwise he will put the Xingyi people in the situation of no ancestor, rudeness and impossibility. In this way, Yi is ashamed of it. Yi Tian knew that he couldn't beat these people, so he nodded. He took out a blank jade slip from Zumaji and pasted it on his forehead. After a long time, he took it down and handed it to Lu Fang. Chief Lu, this is the original idea of Sua Wangguan. Lu Fang took it with both hands and looked at it for a moment. Then he pondered for a long time, frowning and stroking his beard. His face changed constantly. A moment later, a surprise expression gradually appeared on his face, until finally he was red, as if he had unspeakable excitement. Sure enough. If so, it was because of these reasons. With these words, he handed the jade slip to another great friar of the Holy Wing clan. The man took the jade slip and checked it, and handed it to others in turn. Lu Fang looked at Yi Tian and said, it should be God's will that the ancestor came here. It can be said that he saved the Xingyi clan. With this skill, we will have the possibility to enter the heavenly palace in time. From then on, the Xingyi clan will surely prosper day by day. It's Ye's fate to do something for the Xingyi people. Perhaps Sui Huang had expected that Yi would come to the Lansang spiritual realm in the future, so he used Ye's hand to teach him the original idea of Sui Huang Temple. Yi Tian pondered and said, but he felt that maybe it was really possible. Then Yi Tian thought of the information that the seal of Sui Huang had in his mind, and said again, maybe you underestimated the expectation of Master Sui Huang. He probably hopes that his descendants will one day break through the palace of heaven and enter the legendary realm. Lu Fang sighed, it's not easy to talk about this. With the amazing talent of the founder of Sui Huang, we can break through to the fairyland, and we can only practice in the Taoist realm. It's really a fluke that we can break through to the highest level of the Taoist realm. How dare you ask for fairyland? Yi Tian laughs and says, Lu clan chief underestimated the original idea of Sui Huang, and didn't understand the original intention of Sui Huang. The truth is that nothing is difficult in the world, as long as you are willing to climb. As long as we keep practicing and get the Dharma, maybe we can surpass the founder of Sui Huang? The Grandmaster's ambition is high, but what you say is reasonable. He only wants the supreme Dharma in everything. The immortal family has its own destiny. Some people will get this kind of fate which is hard to find in ancient times, but who can have this kind of fortune behind them? Lu Fang also laughed. Immediately, he glanced at the many Kunlun practitioners around him and asked, Grandmaster, I haven't asked where you came from. Earth Star. Yi Tian spits out these 2 words briefly. Earth Star? These 2 words not only shocked Lu Fang, but also the other 17 great friars of the Holy Wing clan. Obviously, they were shocked by the news. Yes, we came from the Earth Star, but after several twists and turns, we came to this Lansang spiritual realm, and now we want to return to the Earth Star. Yi Tian explained slightly. Earth Star. Lu Fang said with his face full of reminiscence, I haven't heard of this place for a long time, and I don't know how many years I have left Earth Star. I didn't expect to meet people of the same race in Lansang Lingyu. It's really a great fate. How are we at Earth Star? Speaking of this, Lu Fang looked at those Kunlun practitioners and asked with some sadness. The 96 Kunlun practitioners, with a sad look on their faces, knelt down in the air together. See our ancestors, there are only 96 of us left in the Holy Wing clan on the Earth Star. What? Only 96 of you left? What's going on? In detail, there were more than 100,000 people of the Xingyi clan who were prosperous in those years. Lu Fang was shocked and asked. The other 17 great friars of the Holy Wing clan also stepped forward, with unbelievable looks on their faces. Many of them were dignified and frowned. After many Kunlun practice rites, Ko Yuanxuan stood up and said in a low voice, "We are not very clear about the specific situation, because our family suffered a great disaster, and our memories were sealed by our ancestors. The only thing we can remember is that in the great disaster, we were infected with the smell of destruction. Our ancestors sealed us up in the congenital spirit jade at the same time, looking forward to one day expelling the smell of destruction and resurrecting. I don't know that it took many years for us to meet our Grandmaster, who saved us from endless darkness and death. And the rest of the people have disappeared from this world, and there are 109 other people who are also sealed in the congenital spirit jade. Their whereabouts are still unknown, and their lives and deaths are unknown. When it comes to sadness, all Kunlun's god of cultivation looks gloomy." Lu Fang and other Kunlun practitioners were silent and heavy. A moment later, Lu Fang sighed, "Since there are no people on the earth, Langsang spiritual realm is your home. If you want, you can stay here as the Holy Wing. There are not many fireworks in this area. If you stay, you can strengthen your family." Hearing the speech, Ko Yuanxuan said without thinking, "Thank you for your kindness. We have engraved our heart, but the Earth Star is going to face a catastrophe. We have to follow our ancestors to do something for the Earth Star. Moreover, the whereabouts of the other 109 people are unknown. We have to go back to the Earth Star to look for them. I'm afraid we will fail the good intentions of our predecessors." "Oh? Earth Star facing disaster? What's going on? Can you tell me about it?" Lu Fang frowned and asked Yi Tian. Yi Tian Dao said, "The Earth Star's aura has been thin for a long time, the cultivation resources are extremely scarce, the practitioner's realm is low, and the Earth Star is about to face the invasion of the demon world and the underworld. It's been a long time since I left Earth Star. I don't know what's going on there. The most optimistic estimate is that it should be no more than 1 year, and the Earth Star will face heavy disaster, so we have to rush back." "A year? I'm afraid it's very difficult for the Grandmaster to return to the Earth Star within 1 year. It took us 7 years to set out from the Earth Star to come to the Langsang spiritual realm, and we also sent it several times through the space channel. I don't know how much time it will take to pass through the nebula vortex." Lu Fang pondered and said, "If you return to the Earth Star, I don't know how far the situation will develop there. Anyway, I have to go back to Earth Star. Even if it's late, I have to go back." Yi Tian said firmly. "Can the ancestor return to the Earth Star to melt the disaster of the Earth Star?" Lu Fang asked solemnly. Yi Tian shook his head silently and said, "It's not clear what will happen to the Earth Star now, and it's also unpredictable to what extent it will evolve in the future, but no matter what the result is, we will do our best. In this way, a great monk from the clan will take you through the starry sky, and you can reach the Earth Star in 3 years at most. What's your Grandmaster's idea?" After thinking about it, Lu Fang said, 3 years? Time is still too long, I'm afraid the Earth Star can't wait. I calculated that all the way through the space channel transmission, if all goes well, there should be 8 or 9 months to return to the Earth Star. I'm not going to cross the starry sky anymore. I can only go back through the space channels of various spiritual realms." Yi Tian shook his head and said, "It's not bad to use the space channel, but the level of the patriarch is still too low. Although the cultivation of these people is a little higher, the road ahead is full of danger, but our great friars can't transmit through the space channel, and can't protect the patriarch along the way. And some of the space channels are extremely weak, I'm afraid even the monks in Yuanyingjing can't pass. Although the Grandmaster's method is fast, it is very risky." Lu Fang said anxiously. "In any case, we can only take the quickest way. As for the danger? The void is full of turbulence and void cracks, and danger also exists. Besides, I still have some cards. I don't need your escort." Yi Tian flatly refuses to say that the Xingyi people are not prosperous, and there are only more than 1,000 Xingyi people. Therefore, the strongmen of the Xingyi people defend them like this. Yi Tian doesn't want any Xingyi people in the Lansang spiritual realm to take risks with them. Since the Grandmaster is determined to do so, we will not dissuade him anymore. It's just that if the Grandmaster needs anything, just ask him, and we will meet his needs." Lu Fang pondered for a moment and said, When Yi Tian heard the words, he asked, "Have you ever heard of Sanqing Sancher Lotus?" The Grandmaster asked this thing, but he wanted to reshape the body for someone? Listen to Yi Tian ask like this. Lu Fang looks at the Dantian part of Yi Tian. Yi Tian knew that the existence of Ning Yao Lingzhong couldn't be concealed from Lu Fang, but when he asked, he couldn't help feeling ecstatic. If Lu Fang didn't know about it, he wouldn't ask so. He said eagerly, "Yes, that's right." "Does the Patriarch know about it?" Lu Fang said with a smile. If the Grandmaster asked others, there might not be any harvest, but we Xinyi people are good at Dandao and know a lot about Linkai. I once saw the records of Sanqing and Sancher Lotus in an ancient book. However, this lotus is extremely rare, and there are many secrets in it. I'd like to hear about it. Yi Tian's heart is ecstatic again, and he can't help urging. This lotus is produced in the endless starry sky. The reason why it is called Sanqing Sancher Lotus is that it cannot be called Sanqing Sancher Lotus if it is a single lotus. This lotus has to go through 3 times of life and death, forming 3 lotus beads, and then refining the 3 lotus beads into one with the fire of nirvana, and then forming branches, leaves and lotus roots again, so it can be called the 3rd generation lotus. It's a pity that every time this lotus has a continuous bead, part of it will be broken. I don't know where to leave it. It's basically impossible to find all 3 lotus beads. When I was wandering in the starry sky, I happened to see a lotus root with a lotus bead in it. If the Grandmaster needs it, send it to him. With these words, Lu Fang made a gesture and took out a lotus root from Shumi. As soon as this lotus root appeared, Yi Tian's eyes suddenly brightened. The color, texture and dilapidated appearance of this truncated lotus root are the same as those of the lotus root he got in the secret library of Dehuang Field. As like as 2 peas, he could not help but to see the source of heaven's eyes, and looked inside the lotus root. Indeed, there was a white round bead in the shape of the same size as the round bead in his lotus root. Is there such a coincidence? Yi Tian can no longer restrain the excitement in his heart. He takes out his truncated lotus root from Shumi commandment, which is right with Lu Fang's. What's amazing is that the cross-sections of the 2 lotus roots coincide with each other. Moreover, when the 2 lotus roots touch each other, the 2 lotus roots are slowly merging into one lotus root. I didn't expect that the Grandmaster also found a lotus bead. In this case, it would be much less difficult to find the last piece. This lotus root is very hard and does not decay. It is hard to damage common treasures, especially lotus beads. Only the fire of nirvana can refine it. And the fire of nirvana is even harder to find than the lotus of Sanqing and Sancher. Lu Fang Tut called it a wonderful way. Yi Tian suppresses the excitement in his heart. He is so happy that he can't find a place to go. Before the mountain is heavy and the water is recovering, now it's dark and bright. The 3 lotus roots were cut by themselves, but Lu Fang said that the most difficult fire of nirvana has been subdued by himself. It seems that all causes are fixed. Everything can't be forced, but some things come naturally. This is one of the reasons, but they are extremely favored. As a result, Yi Tian added a lot of confidence in finding the last lotus bead. Thank you very much for your gift. Yi Tian Dao thanks and excitedly puts the lotus root away. Don't be polite, Grandmaster. The idea of Sui Wangwen you presented is a treasure related to the rise and fall of your family. This lotus root is obtained by accident, and it can't be used for many years. There is no comparison between the 2. If you need anything else, just mention it. Lu Fang waved his hand and said. But Yi Tian said with a smile, I don't need any other things, but I have another thing to send to the clan leader. I hope it will be useful to our Holy Wing clan. With these words, Yi Tian said to Ko Yuanxuan, show your heavenly wings to the clan leader. Ko Yuanxuan nodded happily. In a twinkling of an eye, a pair of flesh wings opened, and 2 bare flesh wings immediately turned into aura wings. Suddenly, he had completed a short distance small blink and reached the distance without any trace. Seeing this, Lu Fang said, I saw them perform this skill before. I thought it was very mysterious. I wanted to have time to ask some questions and listen to the Grandmaster's idea. Did I want to pass it on to my family? Although the great friars like us have been able to use the great move technique, it is of great use to some ordinary people. Yes, if the patriarch doesn't think this technique is crude, you will copy the secret method to the patriarch. With these words, Tian took out a jade slip and pasted it on his forehead to burn it carefully. After a while, Tian took down the jade slips and handed them to Lu Feng. Lu Feng took it over and looked at it carefully. He also showed an excited look and said thanks to Tian. Then he pondered, the wing end of the heavenly spirit is magical. It's not only like it's tailor-made for the Holy Wing clan. Once the cultivation is successful, the strength will be greatly increased. Even the friars of the human race who don't have wings can connect their wings, so as to cultivate the divine power of the heavenly spirit wing. It's really a great achievement to win the creation of heaven and earth. Yi Tian Dao, if it's really useful to our Xingyi people, Yi is very pleased. These people around me have practiced it. With the growth of their strength, they will play a greater role. Even if they show their heavenly wings in Yupu, they can greatly increase the moving distance. It's also very useful. It's true what the Grandmaster said, but did the Grandmaster ever think about practicing this kind of magic power himself? If the Grandmaster thought so, my family has a very good feather that can be given to the Grandmaster. This kind of wings should be left by the ancient beast Jinwu, which belongs to fire, which is in line with the idea of Suiwang view practiced by the ancestors. I have kept it in my family for countless years, but my family was born with wings, and there is nothing to use. I have kept it in Shumi commandment for a long time. If my Grandmaster is interested, I will give it to him. Lu Feng nodded slightly. With that, Lu Feng gestured and a pair of crystal-clear wing skeletons appeared in his palm. The skeletons of the two wings are as polished as white jade. They are beautiful and lustrous. They are of general size and shape. They are half a foot long and delicate. As soon as this wing bone appeared, Tian felt that it sent out a majestic and powerful breath, as if it was issued by the supreme power, which made people feel awe and worship. Yi Tian Yuan's eye shines through. Through the bone part of the wing bone, he can see the hollow inside, which is filled with some kind of golden liquid. It moves like a human pulse, like a living creature. This winged bone is an extremely rare treasure. The golden black of its body must have reached an extremely powerful state, otherwise there would not be such a strange image. Yi Tian, who was not prepared to connect any wings, felt very fond of it when he saw it, and his previous thoughts began to waver. Grandmaster, please take it back. At this time, Lu Feng took a step forward and sent a pair of gold and black winged bones to Yi Tian. Yi Tian reaches out his hand and touches the winged bones. He feels that it's delicate and tender. He has a feeling of flesh and blood. Could it be that the idea of Sua Wanwen, which was cultivated by himself, had a reaction with the golden winged bones? With such a thought in his heart, Yi Tian took the wings into his hands and said, I'll refine and connect them. If it's feasible, I'll take them. If it's not possible, please take back the clan leader and take back the treasure. Well, please connect it with our ancestors. We'll protect the Dharma for you. Lu Feng nodded slightly and made a little gesture. He and the other 17 great friars of Yupujing all retreated 4 or 5 zhang away and put Yi Tianhu in the middle. 96 Kunlun practitioners also stepped back and formed a protective circle between Yi Tian and Lu Feng. Yi Tian sat cross-knee in the air, closed his eyes and meditated for nearly half an hour, passing the whole process of connecting the wings twice in his heart. Then he opened his eyes, motioned, folded one bone wing and suspended the other in front of him. Then, he pointed to the crystal-clear bone wing with his fingertip. The fire thread of Samadhi True Fire, Nirvana Fire and Benming Spirit Fire wound around the wing bone. During the flight, it turns into a very strange and complex shape. When it comes to the bone wing, it lightly touches it, then flies back, and submerges into Yi Tian's fingertips again. But there was a magical change on the bone wing. There was a golden flash on it, and a magical rune appeared, almost covering the whole bone wing. Yi Tian stretched out his hand and put the bone wing on his palm. He looked at it carefully and nodded his head with satisfaction. As like as 2 peas of the bone wing that had already been painted out of the tattoo was removed and another bone was removed. It was modeled on the bone wing with 3 identical flames. In this process, those Kunlun monks were used to Yi Tian's ability to control the fire attribute, but Lu Feng and other 18 great friars of the Holy Wing clan were stunned. They all stared at the scene without blinking, and could not help but take a breath. Such a skilled and accurate fire control ability cannot be achieved by ordinary friars by directly marking the bone wings with flame as a rune. Even the great friars in their realm were much worse than Tian in their ability of controlling fire. What's more terrifying is that they have already had a deep understanding of the hardness of Jinwu's bony wings, and then the flame emitted by Tian has left a brand in between. The extent to which this flame is so terrible can be seen from now on. No one thought that Tian had finished the most difficult part of connecting the bone wings so easily, but the requirements of the rune patterns on the bone wings were very strict. As long as there was a slightest deviation, it could lead to the failure of connecting the wings. The specific final result, people can only wait and see. The rune patterns on the two bone wings are all painted with flame. Tian holds the bone wing that has just been painted with rune patterns on his palm, and a magic power hits on it. The half-foot-long bone wing instantly enlarges and turns into half-zhang long, emitting a crystal-clear light. Tian nodded his head with satisfaction. The rune pattern just depicted has the effect of scaling bone wings. It seems that there is no problem in enlarging bone wings. Then Tian played another magic power, and the bone wings shrank again in a flash, turning into about half an inch, like a pocket mini-wing. Tian's face began to show a smile, and the characterization of rune pattern completely achieved the desired effect. Then Tian tested another bone wing. As before, there was no problem in scaling. Next, Tian opened his mouth and inhaled 2 half-inch mini-wings into his mouth. A moment later, a small bulge appeared on Tian's 2 shoulders. The 2 bulges slowly moved down from his shoulders and finally stayed in the position of the 2 shoulder blades behind him. When the moving bulge stops, Tian suddenly gives out a red light, and the surrounding area becomes hot immediately. 2 flames are wrapping these 2 pocket bone wings and connecting with Tian's shoulder blades. This process lasted for nearly a minute. Genius suddenly closed the flame, closed his eyes and felt it. Before touching the 2 bone wings, he felt that they were connected, but now, he felt that they were the same. Originally, the 2 bone wings were part of his body. Just when everyone thought that Tian had succeeded in connecting the wings, Tian did not stop. Instead, he took out a magic cave from Shumi Ring and enlarged it to enter it. When he put away the magic weapon cave, he had a green talent in his hand. After a look, he swallowed it directly. What's this? Lu Fang's eyes flashed with surprise. He looked at the other great friars of the same clan. He saw that everyone was shaking his head in a daze. He didn't know what it was like. Lu Fang then suppressed his curiosity and continued to look at it. There was no mention of swallowing herbs in the connection of wings mentioned in the jade slips. For a moment, he could not guess what Tian was doing. Is it because I was injured in the process of connecting the wings? If you are really injured, you will have the elixir to heal yourself, and you don't need to swallow the spirit material, do you? So think, but see Tian still concentrate on appearance, he didn't dare to disturb. At this time, Tian manipulated the huge energy of the swallowing pteridophyte to move to the scapular position. The huge energy quickly wrapped the bone wings of Jinwu, absorbed the gene of the bone wings, copied the runes on the bone wings, and then peeled them off, and began to turn into the shape of the bone wings next to the bone wings. Until the bone wings on both sides are fully formed, Tian instantly breaks through the gap between the 4 bone wings on both sides, and the golden leaf sky in the golden black bone wings is poured into the bone wings of Hui grass. The bone wings formed as 2 peas are transformed into the same color as the golden bone wings, and the same crystal is clear, which gives the same breath of terror and strong smell. More than 10 minutes later, after Tianlian finished his last cultivation, he slowly got up and moved his mind. The 4 bone wings on both sides were completely absorbed into the shoulder blades, and there was no bulge on the surface. Congratulations on the Grandmaster's success in connecting the Jinwu Divine Wing. See Tian stand up, Lu Fang and others immediately bow to congratulate each other. Tian's face was beaming, but he said, then it's connected, but I don't know the effect. Let's open our eyes. Lu Fang said with a laugh. Just give it a try. Tian promised, even if Lu Fang didn't say it, he also wanted to see what extent the wings could reach. Immediately, Tian's figure soared up a certain distance and left the crowd's encirclement. His heart moved, and two half-jun-long golden wings appeared out of thin air. Yi Tian's magic power is full of wings in an instant according to the operation method of Tian Linji magical power, and then he incites it gently. The whole person has disappeared from the original place in an instant. There. Lu Fang's idea has covered hundreds of miles around. When a black spot appeared in the sky, Lu Fang pointed excitedly there. This distance is far more than Kunlun Xiu can use Tian Linji in a moment, and it is closer to Xiu Diao. Looking at Lu Fang and others in the distance, Yi Tian is ecstatic. The power of this golden black bone wing has far exceeded his expectation. It's not only very fast, but also moves a long distance. If you flapping your wings continuously, even the monks in the spirit realm can't lock their tracks. With this thought, Yi Tianqin moved again, and a pair of skeletons transformed from Hui grass were instantly enlarged to the same size as Jinwu skeletons, and then Tian Linji magical power was exerted. Yi Tian disappeared from the original place again. There, Lu Fang suddenly looked back and couldn't see Yi Tian's shadow in his sight. He could only sense Yi Tian's position with his mind. It's more than 3 times the distance. Even the great friars such as Lu Fang were stunned. Just at this time, suddenly all around a slight ripple wave, Yi Tian's body accident appeared out of thin air, with a cool smile on his face. Congratulations on the great achievement of the great master Tian Linji. Lu Fang and others immediately held their fists and congratulated each other. This level of heavenly wings was almost unimaginable to them before. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they really didn't believe that the Terran friars could cultivate this wonderful magic power. Congratulations on the great achievement of the great master Tian Linji. Many Kunlun practitioners, led by Ko Yuanxuan, congratulated Yi Tian. Happy together, happy together. Yi Tian said with a smile, helping the others. He was already thinking about where to find a pair of powerful bone wings for Ning Yao, and let her practice this skill after her resurrection. As like as 2 peas, the other 2 pairs of wings look exactly like the golden winged wings, but do not know how they were made? Looking at the 2 pairs of Tian Linji wings behind Yi Tian, Lu Fang asked suspiciously. Yi Tian said with a smile, you also see that I swallowed a spirit wood before. The spirit wood is called Hui grass. This herb can extract structural genes from human body and produce new bone wings. If there is no connection with the Jinwu bone wing, the bone wing can only be a bone wing with the same gene as myself. Of course, that's not bad. It's a natural fusion. But since Jinwu is good at flying and agrees with his idea of Sui Wang Temple, I have an idea to copy Jinwu's bone wings, so I have 2 pairs of wings. Hui grass? How could there be such a magical talent? Lu Fang said in surprise. Yes, I got one by chance. However, the magic weapon I just took out is my mobile medicine garden. 2 seedlings have sprouted in the garden. After planting, they can also tiller, so that the Holy Winged tribe can have a continuous stream of winged grass. If anyone is interested in having more wings, they can also imitate me and reproduce a pair of bony wings. A dragonfly with 2 pairs of wings will fly faster than a butterfly with 1 pair of wings. Yi Tian said with a smile. That's what I want. Lu Fang was very happy when he heard that he agreed. If anyone persuades him to take on another pair of wings before that, Lu Fang will certainly scoff. The great move skill of the great friars is not comparable to that of the ordinary friars. There is no way to say in terms of speed. But seeing Yi Tian connect the wings of gold and black, turn into a pair of divine wings, and display the power of the supernatural power, even he is very excited. If you can really transform your wings successfully, then among the great monks, your great moving skill will reach its peak. As far as the great moving skill is concerned, no one will be able to threaten you anymore. Then I'll get it for you. Yi Tian immediately released the magic weapon cave again, enlarged it and went in. A moment later, he came out with a flower pot made of jade. In the 7-color spiritual soil, an inch-long green seedling was planted. This is the seedling of Pteridophyte. Yi Tian handed the jade basin to Lu Fang and introduced it. Lu Fang took it carefully and took a joyful look at the seedlings. Then he saw the 7 colors of lingrang in the jade basin. He said with a happy face, the ancestors are very kind. The Xingyi people are very grateful. They not only give the seedlings of Huai grass, but also the precious Tianlingrang.
It's not worth mentioning, but it takes 100 years for this plant to tiller.
It needs to wait patiently. Tian said. 100 years? Does the ancestor mean that it will take 100 years to use this kind of Tianling earth? Lu Fang asked.
It's true that this grass can't grow without this kind of spiritual soil, so it's specially sent to us.
Tian nodded. Then it's 100 years later, and there's no other way?
Lu Fang had no choice but to smile bitterly and asked.
Tian touched his chin and said, I have a way to cut this time by half. 50 years is enough. Really? What is the solution? Please make it clear. Lu Fang asked eagerly. Tian Dao, I can arrange a kind of time field.
The velocity of time in the field is twice as fast as that of the outside world. In this way, the time of the outside world is 50 years, and the time in the field has passed 100 years. In this way, the grass can reach the tillering level. How could the Grandmaster arrange the time field? Listening to Tian's words, Lu Fang and other great friars of the Holy Wing clan were surprised at the same time, with a look of ecstasy on their faces. Tian nodded calmly, it can be arranged, but the speed of time can only reach twice the level.
That's very precious, too.
Lu Fang said excitedly, if you practice in this field, will you get twice the result with half the effort, which is equivalent to doubling your lifespan? Seeing Lu Fang's appearance, Tian knew that he was very interested in this time field, so he nodded and said, theoretically, if the clan leader needs to arrange this array, I can do it.
So good, so good. Lu Fang repeatedly promised, then glanced at the distance and said, Grandmaster, what are you going to do here? Tian looks with his eyes.
After such a long time, the battle between Xuanxie and Yunzhong had already ended, because Tian and the great friars of Xingyi clan came here to talk.
Xuanxie and Yunzhong were waiting in the same place, and even Xuanmu didn't leave.
Xuanji and the monks of Xuanjia who came with him have all been abandoned, but the monks of the appearance have been killed. After pondering for a moment, Tian said, Xuanxie of the Xian family is my disciple, his father-in-law Yunzhong is also my disciple, and his granddaughter is also my disciple.
Yunsan Jiamai was framed and chased by Xuanji Yimai.
He lived and died several times. Fortunately, clan leader Lu and many of his family's great friars arrived in time, and no other accidents happened. Xuanmu might have hesitated before, but now he is obviously on the side of Xuanxie. I mean, let Xuanxie be the leader of Xuanjia. If there is any situation, Chief Lu will give some support as appropriate. Now that the Patriarch has spoken, the Holy Wing will give their full support.
Let's go and deal with it now.
Lu Fang immediately nodded his head and extended his hand to the distance at any time. Tian nodded slightly, shaking the heavenly wings to fly to the location of the crack, and Lu Fang and others followed.
Master! Master!
Xuanxie and Yunzhong saw that Tian came and quickly saluted him.
They introduced Tian and said, This is the ancestor of Xuanjiamu. Tian nodded slightly to Xuanmu and said, It's a pleasure to meet you. Xuanmu also nodded slightly in response, showing a trace of unhappy color on his face.
He felt a little embarrassed, but it was hard to say anything.
However, Xuanmu didn't say politely, Tian, you are good at killing the children of the Xian family. Because there is a reason, I won't blame you.
However, since you are recognized as a teacher and I am the ancestor of the Xian family, you should also call me master.
Yes? Xuanmu, let Lu's grandmaster call you the elder. Do you have the courage to agree?
At this time, Lu Fang said with a heavy face.
Do you mean Tian is your ancestor? Are you kidding me? Xuanmu was suddenly stunned and asked in disbelief. Before, Tian and Lu Fang were too far away from him. Xuanmu knew nothing about what he said. Do you think I'm joking?
Lu Fang laughed and said, So, you don't have to worry about the appellation.
In the future, everyone will be a family.
My grandmaster has said that the master of Xiansplit can take charge of the Xuanjia family.
Taoist friends of Xuanmu will look at the arrangement. Xuanmu took a look at Tian, and the surprise in his eyes was still very obvious.
Then he nodded to Lu Fang, Actually, I have this intention. Now with the support of the Holy Wing clan, there is no problem.
Lu Fang looks at Yi Tian with a smile and waves to Yun Zhong, old 15, come here. Cloud Zhong here's to say hello, the figure moves, already arrived in front of Yi Tian, master, please order. How are you going to deal with the affairs of the Cloud family? Yi Tian asked. Hearing this question, a look of pain appeared on Yun Zhong's face. He sighed and said, this time, the Yin family has made a big mistake. They should never follow the mystery. As a result, the Cloud family fell to 6 powerful people in the spirit realm. From then on, the status of the Cloud family in the Lansang spiritual realm will be plummeted, and there will be no more glory in the past. So, do you have the idea of taking charge of the Cloud family? The wings will give you their full support. Yi Tian stares at Yun Zhong and asks. Cloud Zhong silently nodded, if you want to revive the Cloud family, only I personally shoulder the burden of the Cloud family. Patriarch, you will pay more attention to the affairs of the Cloud family in the future. Yi Tianjian nodded his head and said to Lu Fang. The Grandmaster told me that I would do my best. Lu Fang said. Old 14, you should handle Xuanyu's affairs according to your own discretion. If the Xians indulge this person again, I'm afraid it will damage the Xian statement. Yi Tian sees that the matter of the Cloud family has been promised by Lu Fang, and turns to see the dark crack. Disciple and Mu Laozu will take people to Huqiu Gorge to see who is waiting for the disciple to jump into the net. This time, we must clean up the door. Is Master going with his disciples? After dealing with the things over there, you can smoothly pass through the space channel and enter the spirit realm of Luo Tian. Shen Crack looked at Lu Fang and asked carefully. Yi Tian Lu pondered, I still have some things to do when I go to Xingyi clan. After that, I will enter Luo Tian's spirit realm. But now, I'll go to Huqiu Gorge with you, so as to avoid any accident in that space passage. I'll also let the Xingyi clan help you. It will also have a deterrent effect when you return to Xuanjia. I'll let Master and all of you worry about it. Hearing what Yi Tian said, Xuanjia was overjoyed and quickly gave thanks to Yi Tian, Lu Fang and other great friars of the Holy Wing clan. Yi Tian just nodded slightly, and said nothing more, but the great friars of the Holy Wing clan were in a hurry to return the salute, and repeatedly said, Shizu, don't be like this, generation can't be disordered. Shen Crack hurriedly in fear of humility a few words. At the same time, Yi Tianyi felt a little confused about his seniority, but he said at the right time, since it's arranged according to seniority, not according to age and cultivation level, Senior 14 should be called by seniority. He fixed the tone with one stroke, and then he didn't say anything more. The matter of address was settled like this. Xuanji these people, I will take them back to Xuanji's house later to be punished. Well, since I'm going to Huqiu Gorge, I'll go with me. It's a statement on behalf of the Xian family. At this time, Xuanmu said to Yi Tian, up to now, he has seen that the Holy Wing clan, which was always revered by the Xian family, is actually headed by this young monk. Naturally, he can't ignore Yi Tian anymore. Well, let's get ready, let's go now. Yi Tian nods and agrees. It's the best for Xuanmu to pass. It's better than the Xingyi people to directly intervene in Xuanjia's affairs. Xuanmu took out a magic weapon cave and sent Xuanwu, Xuanji, and dozens of Xuanjia's children who had lost their accomplishments into it. They were about to set out. However, Xuanxia held out his hand and said, Mu Laozu and all the great friars of Xingyi clan don't have to show up for the time being. Since Xuanxia wants to take charge of the Xuanjia family, he should first consider for the Xuanjia family and try his best to preserve the strength of the Xuanjia family. Only those who have malice against us can be dealt with when we show up alone, such as Shifu. Others can consider what to do according to their own discretion? If you show up together, I'm afraid you won't be able to see their feelings. If you handle them together, I'm afraid they will implicate innocent people and can't do anything wrong. Xuanxia, it's a great honor for you to have such a broad mind. Naturally, I don't have any opinions from others. Zuan Madang nodded. Lu Fang looks at Yi Tian and nods slightly. He doesn't say anything more. Xuanxie and Yunzhong began to put the monsters into the ring of spirit beasts. In this war, more than 30 monsters died and 100 were injured. The dead are dead, but the wounded monster has no big problem. It only needs to be raised for a period of time to recover its combat effectiveness. The vitality of the monster is still very strong. Master, these monsters who died in battle must be made up twice before Master leaves Lan Sun spirit realm.
Looking at the dead bodies of more than 30 monsters on the ground, Shin Crack said.
Well, it's not a problem to have more or less of these monsters. If you can get me that golden eye god carving, I'd be happy to accept it. Yi Tian smiles, shakes his head and looks into the air. There is nothing there. I don't know when the man on the keel and his golden eye statue have disappeared. I don't want to trouble you with this matter. Master Xuanxia's ancestor took it by himself. I'll catch him immediately.
Lu Fang next to a Saint Wing family friar's smell speech said, immediately figure a flash has disappeared from the original place.
What an acute man.
Yi Tian shook to shake to smile away, turned to Cloud Zhong to say, Old 15, you also go to Tiger Worry Gorge, turn round to go to Cloud House again, also let Lu Plan Chief support a scene for you.
I can't wait for that.
The Cloud Zhong smell speech face up to peep out happy color, agreed to come down at this point. A few minutes later, just as everyone was waiting, the Saint Wing monk who had left suddenly appeared in the sky. He was holding the huge golden eye statue in his left hand and a thin old man with a dead face in his right hand. He was the owner of the golden eye statue.
The man on the keel.
On the keel, people's breath was dispirited, their face was full of panic, their face was pale, and their thin body was shaking slightly.
Xuandeu, please forgive me this time. I'm willing to follow you and go through fire and water for Daoyu, and let me drive you.
Seeing the dark crack, the man on the keel was born immediately and begged.
The great friar of the Holy Wing clan threw the man on the keel to Xianxia. This man has been controlled. Let Shizu handle it.
Xuanxia took over the man on the keel, put his finger on his shoulder, and said, Keel, Xuanmo treats you well on weekdays, but you help him.
You want to help Xuanji to kill me. If I don't have many backhand, I'm afraid I'll be succeeded by you in the golden eye. If I had known today before, I would have spared you today. Isn't Xuanmo a man of unknown gratitude and resentment?
With these words, Xuanxia made a little effort on his hand, and with a click, the shoulder bone of the man on the keel was crushed by Xuanxia. Then he took another palm and patted it on his head in the stuffy hum of the man on the keel.
Poof!
After a sound, the brain of the man on the keel burst, and the other hand of the dark crack was patted on his dantian at the same time. Yuanying, who was restrained by the great joy of the Holy Wing clan, was hit by him and turned into a pile of broken babies.
A monk of the spirit realm fell into the hand of the mysterious crack in an instant.
Xuanxia takes off Shumi ring of the man on the keel and flicks his finger to the great friar of the Holy Wing family who catches the man on the keel. The great friar took it and handed it over to Yi Tian. Grandmaster, take this.
Yi Tian nodded and did not refuse to take over.
No matter what wealth the people on the keel had, they were no longer in his eyes. At that time, he knew that if he did not take over, he would be humble again.
Please accept this, too.
At this time, Lu Fang handed a Shumi ring to Yi Tian.
It was the thing of Xuanwu, the ancestor of the Xuanjia family who had been abandoned. Yi Tian still didn't shirk and put it away. Xuanwu's cultivation has been abandoned, so he basically said goodbye to Xumi Jia. Naturally, he won't be polite. Then, Yi Tian handed the great friar of the Holy Wing clan who had captured the Golden Eye statue a Spirit Beast ring and asked him to send the Golden Eye statue into the Spirit Beast ring. Yi Tian's current cultivation can't recognize the master yet. To drive this carving, he can only wait for his cultivation to improve in the future.
10 minutes later, when Xuanxie and Yunzhong brought the monks here into the cave, Yi Tian took 96 Kunlun monks back to the cave, and the three of them set out together.
This place is only 10,000 li away from Hucho Gorge. The three of them left leisurely.
In less than an hour, they had entered the Mayfly Mountain boundary. More than 1,000 miles, we will come to Hucho Gorge. Along the way, it was quiet, with blue sky and white clouds, gentle breeze, high sky, and wide mountains. Even at this position, nothing happened.
Master, these people are really calm.
The Shin Crack idea opens up, slightly after induction, Cold Humma say. If you're worried about who's going to be bad for you, it's a big deal to search the soul of Xuanji, so it's easy to know. However, he shook his head quietly. Originally, I thought so, but I was worried that if I knew that there were too many people involved after soul searching,
I would not be able to control my heart. In fact, the other branches of Xuanji's family were forced to submit to Xuanji's power. Even so, when I know that they are lurking in my heart, it's hard to avoid a mustard in my heart. If you don't know about this matter, it's better to deal with those who still want my life at this time. Hearing the words, Tian also nodded his head. In his heart, he secretly said that it was not easy for the Xian family to achieve this step. After a long time in the Lancang spiritual realm, the Xian family inevitably had some arrogant mentality and arrogant ideas. If we can take this opportunity to rectify and eradicate some black sheep, it may not be a good thing for the Xian family. Next, the road is still calm. But the mysterious crack idea has already been released, and the situation on the other side of Hucho Gorge has already felt 7788, with a sneer on his face from time to time. At last, someone is coming. At a certain moment, the flying Tian suddenly stops and looks at the distance with bright eyes. Under the light of Tian's eye, he saw dozens of people appear from the horizon and fly here. The first one is Xuanyu. Tian sent a message to the dark crack. The Xian crack facial expression coldly hums this person disciple is about to take him to ask a crime, unexpectedly took the initiative to send a come. With these words, Xuanxia made a gesture, and 3 fixed body beads flew out, forming a triangle in the air, emitting dazzling white light, covering a large area. Under the white light, a dark shadow gradually appeared. Sure enough, Xuanyu was the first, followed by many Xuanjia monks. Among them, there were more than a dozen people who changed the spiritual realm, and the remaining 40 were all Yuan Yingjing practitioners. Tian 3 people stopped body shape, the vision is icy ground looking at the Xian family friar who was fierce but calm. Xuanyu, stop. What do you want to do? Do you want to fight me? Seeing the other side showing a posture of coming to siege without saying a word, he burst into a loud, deafening sound. After hearing the news, Xuanyu stops. Xuanyu glances at Tian and his eyes go from Xuanxia to Yunzhong. Finally, he stays on Tian's face and says with a gloomy face, Xuanxia, I will encircle you in Yunzhong by the order of the master. You can't escape this time, and you. With these words, Xuanyu pointed to Tianning and said with hatred in his eyes, and you, the murderer of my son is you. Don't think about denying it. I know it very well. Today, if I don't peel your skin, I can't get rid of your hatred. Everyone, follow my orders and kill. Xuanyu yelled, and he was about to rush forward to fight. At this time, Xuanxia yelled, you children of the Xuanjia family, give you a chance to repent, and take Xuanyu down immediately. This is the last chance, or you will bear the consequences. Ha 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 ha. Xuanyu immediately laughed when he heard the words, Xuanxia, are you talking in your sleep? Who are these people? Is that what you can command? Although your surname is Xian, what's the difference between you and a dog now? Everybody, do it now with Xuanyu's cheering. Sure enough, all the children of the Xuanjia family behind him came to the 3 men of Xuanxia in a flash. They showed their magic weapons in their hands, like fighting for life and death. At this time, suddenly the ripples in the air appeared, and Xuanmu stepped out to protect the 3 people. Seeing Xuanmu's appearance, Xuanyu and others stagnated and stopped in the air. Xuanyu frowned slightly, folded his fist and bowed his body to salute. Xuanyu, see Mu Laozu. Mu Laozu is here. Please listen to Xuanyu's report. Wu Laozu has an order. Cooperate with the family leader to round up the rebellious Xian crack. No one has to stop him. Please forgive me. Xuanwu? You just listen to Xuanwu? Are you not afraid of your Mu Laozu's anger? A strange expression appeared on Xuanmu's face, and he asked with a sneer in his mouth. We dare not disobey the orders of Wu Laozu. If Mu Laozu has any different opinions, please understand our feelings and discuss with Wu Laozu. Xuanyu thought of Xuanwu behind him, and he felt a little more confident. Although he was facing his family Xuanmu ancestor, he still spoke neither humble nor overbearing. Well, then invite Wu Laozu out and discuss with him. Looking at Xuanyu's fearless expression, Xuanmu suddenly laughs. Then he makes a gesture and releases his own cave. After zooming in, he reaches out and takes Xuanwu out of it. Wu Laozu. Seeing Xuanwu's appearance, how could Xuanyu, who had already cultivated to the spirit state, not know that the old man had completely abandoned his cultivation? He couldn't help but be surprised. He knelt down in the sky and said, "Since Wu Laozu was seriously injured, Xuanyu's actions are just like Mu Laozu's. Is it true that I am the only one to look ahead?" Xuanmu asked with a sneer. "Yes, Mu Laozu, by orders alone, we will go through fire and water no matter what we do." Xuanyu's attitude changed very quickly. Seeing that Xuanwu could not rely on him, he immediately turned to Xuanmu. Xuanmu ignored them, but looked back at more than 40 Xuanjia children. "What do you say? We are willing to go through fire and water as long as we follow the orders of Mu Laozu." More than 40 people immediately knelt down and began to show their attitude. "Well, I'm worthy of being the son of the Xian family. I've got courage." Xuanmu nodded slightly and praised. "Thank you for your praise." Xuanyu was pleased and modest. He stood up. More than 40 people behind him also bowed to Xuanmu and stood up, suspended in the air, waiting for Xuanmu's follow-up orders. Xuanmu's eyes swept the crowd, and then a mysterious smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. With a gesture, a wisp of flame flew forward from his fingertips. The flame magnified rapidly in the wind and turned into a raging flame, which was 10 feet in diameter. The flame flickered and flickered, and the hot temperature even distorted the air. "This Mu Laozu. What does that mean?" Feeling the flame slowly approaching him, Xuanyu's face changed and looked nervously at Xuan Mu Laozu. "Didn't you just say that the order of Wei Mu Laozu followed? Don't you have to go through fire and water? Now the fire is here." Go Xuanmu put away the smile on his lips, and his expression became extremely cold. Xuanyu and many of the Xian family's children's faces suddenly changed when they heard the speech. They were so scared that they quickly knelt down again and repeatedly begged for mercy. "Mu Laozu was kind. We had to do what we did before. It was this Xuanwu who forced us to pursue Xuanzhan. Otherwise, we would do something to us. We were also forced to do nothing." "You." A group of soft bones. In front of Xuanwu, Xuanyu and others said that, even Xuanwu, who was already extremely weak and had been abandoned, also cursed. "Xuanwu, don't you admit it? You are the one who persecutes us, or you will kill us. Do you dare to deny it in front of Master Mu?" "Master Mu." Mingjin Xuanyu tore his face and accused Xuanwu. A group of animals. Xuanwu just scolded, and was sent back to the magic cave by Xuanmu. Then the gesture moved, and the burning flame became smaller in a moment. It flew back to the fingers of Xuanmu, and disappeared. Just as Xuanyu and others just breathed a sigh of relief, Xuanmu's voice became colder and colder. "Originally, I thought you would listen to my wishes, and I wanted to show you a little mercy, but you didn't drink. Now I'll leave you to Xuanxie. It's up to him to decide whether to live or die. No, Mu Laozu, it's not in line with the clan rules. Why should we be treated? Even if Mu Laozu protects him, we can't do it. If we want to deal with it, we have to leave it to the owner of our family. We won't accept that." When Xuanyu and others heard that Xuanmu wanted to hand over these people to Xuanxie, they were shocked and quickly argued. "Homeowner? Is he the owner of the house you are talking about?" Xuanmu sneered again, and then made a gesture again, pulling the frustrated mystery out of the magic weapon cave. "The cultivation of the master?" Xuanmu was shocked when he saw the appearance of Xuanji. He had already seen it. It was obvious that Yuanying was broken and his cultivation was completely abandoned. It's true that Xuanji steals his position and gains the position of the head of the family. Instead of revitalizing the Xuanjia family, he goes against the trend of the times. He is the same party and fights with his family, which almost leads to the disintegration of the family. "I am the master of the family," abolishes his cultivation, deposes his position as the head of the family, and let Xuanxie take charge of all the affairs of the Xuanjia family. Now Xuanxie is the head of the Xuanjia family. How to deal with you is just a word from him. Is that not a good name and a bad word? Xuanmu said with a smile. No, Mu Laozu, do you agree with the other 4 Laozu? Xuanyu is very clear that if Xuanxie really deals with them, it will be 10 times more miserable than Xuanmu. If it doesn't work well, he will be deprived of all his accomplishments. So he moved out the other 4 ancestors of the Xuanjia family. Xuanyu, when you are dying, you still want to be pretentious. I asked you about the pursuit of Xuanxie. Did you agree with the other 4 ancestors? Xuanmu snorted again. Xuanyu suddenly stops talking. He knows very well in his heart that the other 4 ancestors of the Xian family are dedicated to hard work. They have been asking about family affairs for a long time. I didn't have to explain so much to you. The reason I told you this is to make sure that you have nothing to say. Next, your fate will be dealt with by Xuanxie. Xuanmu said here, looking at the crack. Xuanxie looked at Xuanyu and others, and said with no expression, leave your life for now, and abandon your cultivation by yourself. It's also good to teach the children of the Xian family to be careful in their words and deeds and learn from them. Hearing that Xian Crack was really going to abolish their cultivation, he also wanted to abolish it by himself. Xianyu got up from the ground, and his figure flashed and flew away to the distance, so he wanted to run away. The rest of the children of the Xian family had the same idea and fled in all directions. But at this time, there was a flash of ripples in the sky. Lu Fang and the other 17 great friars of the Holy Wing clan came in a flash, and the 18 great friars shot at the same time. The voice of Mana Burst was everywhere in the sky, and the shadows were flying. One by one, the 18 great friars of the Xian family closed their accomplishments and threw them to the crack. Xuanyu is the same. He is in the air, and the mana in Dantian is sealed. He flies to Xuanxie like a sandbag. He grabs his body and then pats himself with a palm. He hits Dantian impartially. Suddenly, he feels a pain in his heart, and Yuanying state in his body is shattered by the power of this palm. Xian Crack, you. Xian Yu's head hummed, and his whole heart sank instantly. The magic power in the elixir field leaked out madly, and his body immediately felt extremely weak. This is the result of your own choice. I have advised you before, but you are stubborn and deserve it. Xian Crack Cold Hame, the hand gesture move, sent it into the magic weapon cave and imprison. When he was flying into the magic cave, Xuanyu looked back for 10,000 years, only to see that the rest of the disciples of the Xian family were also like this. They were thrown by the great friars of the Tian family who had wings on their bodies. Xuanxie and Xuanmu had a tacit understanding to discard those friars and send them into their own magic cave. How can Tian clan? As soon as this thought rose in Xuanyu's heart, he felt a rush of fire and fainted in the magic cave. After all the children of the Xian family were abandoned and imprisoned, Xuanxie looked at Yi Tian, Shifu. Next? Continue to Hucho Gorge, first go to see the space channel. With that, Yi Tian flew to Hucho Gorge first. Xuanxie and Yunzhong followed, while Xuanmu and the 18 great friars of Tian clan stopped at the same place. Their thoughts spread out and covered the area of more than 10,000 li. In particular, they could observe the situation near Hucho Gorge as well as the palm of their hands, so that they could move in a flash at any time. Hundreds of miles away, in a moment, the 3 people have come to Hucho Gorge. Although this gorge has the name of a gorge, it is just like a precipitous valley surrounded by precipitous cliffs. The terrain is very precipitous, and the area is much larger than that of a general valley. The clouds and fog in the valley are transpiration and dense, blocking people's sight. It can be seen that there are many pavilions and pavilions in it, stretching out a large building community. As soon as Yi Tian, Xuanxie, Yunzhong and others appeared outside Hucho Gorge, the music in the gorge immediately burst out, and a group of friars slowly flew out of the gorge and knelt down in the sound of the music. Welcome Xuanxie Taigong to Hucho Gorge. Be careful, said a monk of Yuanying kneeling in the air. Welcome Xuanxie Taigong to Hucho Gorge. The rest of them sang along. Before Xian Crack could speak, ripples appeared in the air, from which Xian Wood was already in shape. See Mulaozu, welcome Mulaozu. These people did not show how surprised they were when they saw Xuanmu, but they all paid homage. Xuanpian's face, eyes slowly passed the people in front of him. A moment later, he announced, from now on, Xuanxie is the master of Xuanjia. You wait to pay homage again. Yes, welcome to Vucho Gorge, see you. Xuanmu's words still didn't seem to cause people shock. Instead, he kowtowed to Xuanxie again. Xuanxie is very clear in his heart that the situation of his disposal of Xuanyu and others has been detected by these divine thoughts, otherwise they would not have made such scenes so abnormally. His eyes slowly swept the people kneeling in the air, for a long time did not make any sound. Those people didn't dare to use the idea to check. Some people could not help but secretly looked up at the dark crack. When they saw the cold eyes of the dark crack, they quickly lowered their heads in fear. Everyone knows what's going on. It's the most difficult time. Before, these people set up traps to wait for the mysterious crack to enter the urn. Now the situation is reversed, and they are in the hands of others. They could not help but feel a sense of uneasiness, panic. Unconsciously behind the cold sweat has been wet clothes. In this intolerable suffering, Xuanxie finally said, "Today, everyone here, I have already recorded you. The previous things are temporarily sealed. If anyone has another intention in the future, the new account and the old account will be counted together. I can't wait. The heads are lower. Who will guard the teleport?" Xian Crack Cold Hame asked to get down to business. Xuanzong and Xuanku are on guard with people. The leading monk of Yuanyingjing said in a hurry. "Master, let's go and have a look." After hearing the words, two monks of Yuanyingjing come to mind. They are the collateral children of Xuanyu's group, and they are no longer carefree. He bowed to Yi Tian and said. Yi Tian nodded slightly, "Lead the way ahead." In the eyes of the public, Xian Crack should be take the lead to fly to Vucho Gorge. "Master. Please." Yunzhong also bowed to Yi Tian, until Yi Tian flew away with the mysterious crack, and then followed him respectfully without overstepping. Kneeling on the ground, the children of the Xian family were stunned when they saw this scene. A group of 3 people, Xuanxie lead the way, all the way unimpeded, straight to the cloud and transpiration of the canyon. In a turbulent waterfall, Xuanxie will fall on a round stone with a mysterious pattern. The diameter of the round stone is about 1 zhang. After the dark crack falls, Yi Tian and Yunzhong also fall on it. Before that, he had already inquired about Xuanxie. This round stone with field symbols was one of the channels to enter the underground transmission array. Other channels can enter the space from the transmission array elsewhere. The channel is located in the underground space. A magic power hit the stone somewhere. The stone suddenly moved and quickly sank down. After sinking for tens of feet, it finally stopped. In the process of sinking before, it was still passing through the stratum, but now where the boulder stays is a long and narrow underground passage. Near the place where the round stone stops is a stone gate, which also has complicated rune patterns. Xuanxie took a look at the stone gate, and his fingers continued to point above and below. The stone gate suddenly burst into dazzling white light. After a few breaths, the white light disappeared, and the stone had disappeared. In the distance, deep in the narrow underground passage, a vast space appeared in the sight. Who broke into Xuanjia? Yi Tian's body moves and takes the lead in entering the space. At this time, a sudden burst of drinking sounds, and then a flying sword cuts to Yi Tian. Presumptuous. With a cold hum, the sleeve of the robe swung violently, and a powerful magic force hit the flying sword. The sword was like a heavy blow. It shot away from the distance and disappeared into the far stone wall. At this time, the person who just yelled appeared out of thin air, but he came out from behind a stone wall. "It's you?" This person sees Xian Crack after, slightly alang, immediately facial expression big change, appeared a messenger in the hand, then excited to go out. At the same time, another 7 or 8 Xian family's side branch disciples also appeared. Standing behind the former one, they took out their magic weapons and guarded Yi Tian's 3 carefully, but none of them dared to rush over and do it. Among these people, the highest accomplishments were only in Yuanying realm, and even 3 were just in Jindan realm. Subpoena? I'm afraid you don't know what happened to the Xian family yet? He hated Xuanyu especially. Originally, what happened between him and Xuanji had nothing to do with Xuanyu, but Xuanyu just fell to Xuanji and made enemies with himself everywhere. What's the change? Because there is a field in the underground space which is isolated from the investigation of divine thoughts, they have no way to know the things outside. After listening to Xuanxia's words, those people were obviously cold and asked, "What's the change?" His eyes swept over the embers of the messenger which were burning like a broken butterfly, and a sneer appeared on his lips. "The change I said is that your messenger is white, and no one will come to support you." Xian crack. Are you emboldening yourself? You know what? There's Xuanwu Laozu's messenger. If you know the Prime Minister, you'll be arrested, or you'll come to a miserable end as soon as he arrives. Yes? For the sake of your confidence, I'll give you some time to wait for your Wu Laozu. Xuanxia smiles more. Instead of rushing to deal with the children of the Xuanjia family, he holds his hands upside down and looks coldly at each other. And the Master's Herald. If you don't want to be punished by the cruelest clan rules, Xiancrack, I advise you to obey them. Xuanku, the son of the Xuanjia family in Yuanyingjing, went back 2 steps and continued to threaten. I don't think he'll cry if you don't see the coffin. The cold light burst out in Xuanxia's eyes, the gesture moved slightly, and a magic weapon cave the size of a fist appeared in his hand. Then he bent his finger and shot at Xuanku. Xuanku is only the cultivation of Yuanyingjing. Although the main function of the magic weapon cave is to live, it is a magic weapon after all. The material refined by itself is extremely hard and can also be used to attack. When he was shot by Xuanku, he was so powerful that if he was hit, he would have to break his tendon. Xuanku and others quickly flashed back. Fortunately, the mysterious crack didn't mean to hurt them with the magic cave. As soon as the magic cave stopped in the space, it quickly became bigger and fell to the position where Xuanku and others were before. Then the mysterious crack pointed to the magic weapon cave from a distance. A magic power shot out from between the fingers and hit on a rune of the cave. The defense shield of the cave door closed with a bang, and 6 figures floated out from inside. It's the 6 children of the Xuanjia family in the Xuanxia branch. Take them all out of cultivation. 6 people out of the cave, a glance as to see the situation here, can't help looking at the crack, to look at each other. Xian crack to Xian dry there a finger, the voice says coldly. Ah! When Xuanku and others heard that they were going to abandon their cultivation, they were faced with a lot of Washinjing people, but the reinforcements they were looking forward to had not arrived all the time. They already had a bad premonition in their heart. Someone exclaimed and flashed away to the distant transmission array. Want to run? Xuanwu, who had just left the cave, frowned and flicked his fingers. A powerful wind blade came out of his hand and cut at the man. The position he hit was exactly where the Xuanwu's son would arrive at the next moment. Feeling the blade of terror, the child of the Xian family suddenly stopped. In this short moment, Xuanwu had been shot by lightning. With a wave of his hand, a powerful magic force hit the man. Bang! The mana sent out a strong explosion, which broke out a powerful force. In a moment, it knocked the man upside down and back, flying a long distance in the air, and then crashed into the stone wall of the underground space with a bang, which broke out a burst of smoke. Xuanwu, however, was the only way to the teleportation array. His momentum burst out, which made the bodies of the other Xuanjia children who wanted to rush to the teleportation array suddenly stagnate. Almost at the same time, the other 5 cultivation methods of the mysterious crack have already been put into action, and the underground space becomes chaotic. It was easy for the 6 monks to deal with the less than 10 children of the Xian family, but they didn't kill them suddenly. Instead, they beat them like a joke, but they couldn't escape. Enough time has been given to you. What about the Xuanwu ancestor you are looking forward to? You've inspired so many messengers, but has someone ever come to save you? Looking at the scene in front of him, he sneered. Spare your life, we know our sin. At this time, Xuanku saw that Xuanwu didn't show up for a long time, and Xuanxia and others didn't take down the teleportation array to leave here at the first time. Then he knew that the situation had changed beyond their expectation. He quickly went to the ground and begged for forgiveness. Others followed suit and kowtowed. Well, I know you are guilty. Xian cracked tiny nods to say, but didn't let that 6 people stop. Xianjun, Xuanwu and other 6 people had already been ordered by Xuanxia to abolish their accomplishments. Before, they were just tormenting them. Now they have knelt down, and they have no fun in tormenting them. They simply take actions one by one to abolish Xuanku and other people's accomplishments. Xuanku and others felt the magic power on their bodies leaking out in an instant, and felt that the powerful power in the past suddenly disappeared from their bodies. That kind of feeling seemed to fall into the dust from the cloud. The strong contrast makes them feel like the world is collapsing, and they feel hopeless in an instant. This kind of punishment is even more cruel than death, because the dead do not know what happened behind them, and they will not suffer for their own fate. However, the children of the Xian family who had abandoned their cultivation were different. They had to bear all the challenges that they had to face before they died. The reason why you left your lives is just to alert other members of the Xian family and let other members know how to deal with themselves in the future. Unfortunately, your choice is wrong and the most stupid. Xian Crack finished saying and looked at Yi Tian the master, please. Yi Tian didn't show any sympathy from the beginning to the end. If it wasn't for the success of themselves in Xuanxie, I'm afraid that they would have fought to intercept them if they had not broken into Huqiu Gorge according to their original plan. At this time, he just glanced at the abandoned Xuanxie's son, nodded slightly, and walked towards the transmission array. Master, there are 5 transmission arrays here. The other one is the real space channel. After some arrangement, it is mixed with the other 5 transmission arrays. If you don't know the basic information, it's hard to distinguish them at the moment. Xian Crack Sidewalk, Side Accompany and Leaf Day Side Introduction Way. Yi Tianwen nodded, and suddenly pointed to a transmission array at the edge. Well, this is the space channel. Xian Crack took a look at the transmission array pointed by Yi Tian and said with a bitter smile, sure enough, nothing can hide from the master's eyes, but you can see through it all at once. On the surface, it's true to confuse the true with the false. If there is no heavenly eye, no one can see the difference between this transmission array and other transmission arrays at a glance. What's more, the transmission array on the surface really has the transmission function, but I don't know where to send it. Only when the transmission array on the surface is closed, can it be transmitted through the space channel. Yi Tian took another look and said, Master is as smart as a torch. The advantage of doing so is that even if others see that this is a space passage, they can't leave from this space passage at the first time. Even the disciples don't know where the transmission channel is arranged on the surface. Apart from Wu Laozu, only Mu Laozu is known now. Otherwise, it can only be transmitted once to know. Xian Crack nods to say, I don't think this space transmission channel is very stable. I'm afraid that even if the monks of deification transmit too frequently, there may be signs of collapse. It's estimated that it can only be used for 100 years. Yi Tianyuan's eye shines through, and he takes a closer look and says, It's true what Master said. That's why the family strictly controls the use of space passageways. If there is not something extremely important, this space channel will not be activated. If these things had not happened, the master wanted to communicate with the Xian family through normal means. No matter how much the master paid, the Xian family would not have agreed. Xian Crack slightly nods to say, Well, there's no problem with the space channel for the time being. Let's go to the cloud home now. Yi Tian said no more and told him to turn away. Xuanwu, Xianjun. The 6 of you are here to guard the transmission array. No matter who is in the Xuanjia family, you are not allowed to enter this underground space. If you have anything, you can send a message to me at any time. Xian Crack then also gave the order to the 6 monks of the spirit realm, and then with Yun Zhengdao, followed Yi Tian to leave the underground space. Wuyin Mountain. Lansong is a famous mountain range. Because this is the place where the Cloud family is located. 2 days later, Yi Tian, Xuanxie and Yunzhong, who are invisible, have come to the vast Wuyin Mountain. Looking at the magnificent and picturesque scenery in the distance, they feel the rich aura of heaven and earth. Yi Tian sighs, the Cloud family is really a giant. It can be seen that the strength of the Cloud family is extraordinary if they can occupy such a treasure land for countless years. Xuanxie nodded slightly and said with infinite emotion, What Master said is very true. Although the Cloud family is only a family, the great friar of Yupujing in the family has never had a fault. There are 2 conditions for a family, one is to inherit history, the other is the top power.
If an aristocratic family loses the Great Friar of Yupu realm, it will lose the status of the aristocratic family, and then it may face the fall of the enemy family. It is a luxury to be an ordinary family without the protection of the Great Friars of Yupu. Once upon a time, there were several aristocratic families in Longsanlingyu, and they were finally met by the fate of their families, but now, both An family and Jing family are in this state. Even if the disciples don't do it, I'm afraid their fate is doomed.
Yi Tian was silent for a moment and said, I'm not interested in the Jing family.
As for settling down, the nun named Anya, let Xianfeng deal with it.
This person destroys Du Mingyue's appearance. If she doesn't make an end, I'm afraid her idea will not be accessible. There is also a Tianjin sect, which is also Du Mingyue's school. 3 of its monks once attacked me. Moreover, Tianjianzong once betrayed Du Mingyue and sold her life soul card to the Zhang family in Tianlong City. Let Lao Shiwu take the credit for the destruction of Tianjianzong.
He is in charge of the Cloud family.
Thank you for your help, Master.
Smell speech, Cloud Zhong full face gratefully to Leaf Day Shirley Wei. The wish of being a teacher is that the Cloud family will grow stronger in your hands. As a disciple of a teacher, you should step up your cultivation and strive to enter Yupu as soon as possible.
Yi Tianbai waved his hand and said, I will obey the master's instruction.
Yun Zhonggong bowed and saluted respectfully.
Well, there's no need for these rituals.
Act according to the original plan. Yi Tian waved his hand again and nodded to the dark crack. The 2 of them speeded up and flew to the depth of Woying Mountain. And Yunzhong is behind, like a leisurely general leisurely fly.
Xuanxie is the uncle of the Cloud family in Woying Mountain.
Naturally, he and Yi Tian are very familiar with this place.
They fly away quickly in the vast Woying Mountain. After more than half an hour, they finally see the vast Cloud family villa from a distance.
Woying Mountain Valley crisscross, the terrain ups and downs, to the Cloud family heritage. I do not know how many years of history, the family's children have already multiplied into a very large number, although far less exaggerated than the Taigu family Xuanjia, but also occupies more than 100 miles. Many halls and houses are scattered between the peaks and valleys, with dense shade, flowing springs, and more than 100 flying cranes.
It's really a good view.
From afar, it looks like a landscape painting with thick ink and heavy color.
There are still dozens of miles away from the Cloud family's settlement.
When Yi Tian and Xuanxie are flying away quickly, more than a dozen figures suddenly appear in front of Yi Tian and Yunlai.
Dark crack.
At present, a monk of Washenjing saw the mysterious crack and drank softly. The Xian family is arresting you, but you come to Woying Mountain.
Are you falling into the trap?
The mysterious crack's eyes were fixed, and he looked at the man and said, Yunkuan, although the scenery of Woying Mountain is good, it's too closed.
You don't know anything about the news outside.
Xuanji has been abandoned to cultivation, depriving the master of the family. I'm the new leader of the Xian family. This time I came to Woying Mountain, but I came to destroy your Cloud family. When I was in trouble, the Cloud family made trouble for the tiger and chased Xuanmo.
I've always had a clear sense of gratitude and resentment. This time I'm asking for a debt from you. Ha ha ha.
Hearing this, the man named Yunkuan burst out laughing. Xian crack, you're really shameless.
If you take charge of the Xian family, I'm afraid you're not the 2 of you this time? And this? Xian crack, you are really promising.
You brought a boy from Longmen realm to Yan's home.
Are you here to send his head? Yi Tian looks cold, but he doesn't say anything. On hearing that Yun Koan insults his master, he immediately shouts angrily, Yun Koan, how presumptuous!
How dare you disrespect my master?
Xian crack, are you crazy? Recognize a boy in Longmen as a teacher? Are you afraid that you don't have enough jokes to give us a little more after dinner talk? Yunkuan burst out laughing. Yunkuan, I will sentence you to death now.
Xian crack face a cold ground says, to this Cloud family's owner, he always despises. Once with Xian family marriage, this person tries to flatter. As soon as Xuanxie lost his power, he went down the well and did a lot of disrespectful things.
What a big tone. Just the 2 of you? Do you dare to talk in the Cloud family? Yun Koan laughs and looks contemptuous. Who said it was just the 2 of them?
All of a sudden, a voice came out from the sky. It didn't seem to be very loud, but it came into everyone's ears clearly. Then, on a floating white cloud, a figure suddenly appeared. The old man had a wide robe, big sleeves, and 2 high cheekbones. Standing on the white cloud, he had the taste of fairyland. The elder is. Feeling the breath of the old man, Yun Kuan could not see the depth of the man for a moment. He had never seen Xuanmu, but he could also feel that the realm of the man should be much higher than himself, and even reached the realm of jade. Mu Laozu. At this time, the dark crack to the dark would slightly a bow, be regarded as a salute. Xuanmu, one of the ancestors of Xuanjia family. Xuanmu. At this time, Yun Kunkai awoke. He had never seen Xuanmu, but he knew that this man and his elders had described the appearance of Xuanmu, which was just about to match the old man in front of him. As the head of a noble family, how could he not know nothing about the old monster in Yupu realm of the Taigu family? Yun Kuan knows that Xuanwu was behind the mystery, and this Xuanwu is obviously standing with Xuanxie. One is the owner of the Xuanjia family, and the other is the rebel wanted by the Xuanjia family. How can we choose between the two sides? Just when Yun Kuan hesitated, a figure suddenly appeared beside him. Yun Kuan, step back. Here comes a middle-aged monk with a short beard, a stout robe and a bamboo sword on his back. He looks very different. After he retreated from Yun Kuan, he threw a fist at Xuanmu. It turned out that it was Brother Mu who drove here. Yun Shu was disappointed and invited Brother Mu to forgive him. Hee, what else can we forgive? This time I'm here to wipe out your cloud family. What's the matter if I welcome you far away? Yun Shu, get ready to fight. Xuanmu swept the sleeve of the robe, put his hands down, and said coldly. Destroy the cloud family? Brother Mu, are you kidding? When did the cloud family offend Brother Mu? When did you offend the Xian family? How can we say that Xuanxie is also the uncle of the cloud family? How can we start this? Yun Shu asked blankly, and then he looked at Yun Kuan with a sober look. He drank fiercely and asked, what's the matter with Yun Kuan? Tell me the truth? Seeing Yun Shu's expression, Yun Kuan can't help but tremble in his heart. He is also very afraid of the only Yupujing ancestor in the Yun's family. He quickly sorts out his words and says slowly, Laozu, this is what happened. Xuanji, the new leader of the Taiga Xuanjia family, issued a wanted order, asking the Yunjia family to send people to encircle and suppress the Xuanjia family's rebellious Xuanxie. Originally, Xuanxie was the uncle of the Yunjia family, and Yun Kuan should have protected him. However, considering the great plan of the Cloud family, I acted with great righteousness to destroy my relatives. In response to the order of the mystery, I sent several people to take part in the encirclement and suppression. And then, with today, there is such a thing in front of us. Nonsense, why don't you tell me such a big deal? Cloud Shu smell speech facial expression suddenly sink down, in the ice cold on one shan ground drinks away. Yun Kuan quickly saluted and said, I wanted to ask for instructions from my grandfather about this matter. But my grandfather has been closed for more than 20 years, and Yun Kuan dare not disturb me easily. Therefore, starting from the interests of the family, he made this decision after consulting with the leaders of each branch. This is not Yun Kuan's opinion, but the collective decision of the Yuns. Collective resolution? Yun Shu's face softened a little and said, where's Yun Zhong? Let Yun Zhong come to see me. I want to hear what he says. Yun Zhong. Yun Zhong has betrayed the Cloud family. Is he missing? He was accompanied by Huang Yanxiu and 2 worshippers, Yunzhou and Yunjin. Yun Kuan looked up at Yun Shu, then lowered his head and said in a low voice. It's really a coincidence that Xian Split betrayed the Xian family and Yun Zhong and his wife betrayed the Yun family? Yun Kuan, I ask you, why did Yun Zhong betray his family? Yun Shu sneered a few times and continued to ask. The muscles on Yun Kuan's cheek trembled a few times, then calmed down and said, it's because Yun Zhong and his wife colluded with Xuanxie. The Xian family came to ask for Yun Zhong and his wife, but Yun Zhong was so bold that he dared to hurt the children of the Xian family. In order to keep his family safe, Yun Kuan plans to take Yun Zhong and his wife and hand them over to the Xians. Yun Zhong has killed out of the Yuns and has gone nowhere ever since. It's also because I'm closed, so I didn't report it? Yun Shu's voice became more severe. Cloud Koan Nana said, did not dare to say a word more. He has felt the anger of Cloud Shu, afraid to say more will lose, quickly made a cautious appearance. Who knows, Yun Shu is a cold hum. I see you do not put my ancestors in the eye. Want to cover up the sky in the cloud home? What kind of person is Yunjong? I don't know yet? How could he have hurt the children of the Xian family if the Xian family hadn't forced them too much? If it wasn't for you, Yunkuan, how could Yunjong leave Yunjia? I don't think it's Yunjong who betrayed his family, but you Yunkuan who forced him out of his family? Lao Zhu Mingjian, Yunkuan is afraid to do such things. Yunjong is extremely arrogant and doesn't pay any attention to my family leader. Many children of the Cloud family can testify about this. Yunkuan smell speech, quickly distinguish road. Yun Shu's eyes turned slightly and looked at the children of Yun family who followed Yun Kuan. Those people didn't dare to touch Yun Shu's eyes. They all lowered their heads. No one said a word. Seeing this, Yun Shu further confirmed his own judgment. His eyes swept the Cloud family coldly, and then he looked at Xuanmu. Brother Mu, it's true that the Cloud family is wrong, but I don't know anything about it. Although what Yunkuan has done is very improper, after all, Xuanxie is as good as it is today, and it has not led to a big mistake. I think I asked Yunkuan to sincerely apologize to Xuanxie and make some compensation for it. How about not taking part in the affairs between the mystery crack and the mystery Xuanmu? Eyebrows slightly apic said, Yun Shu, before talking about this matter, there are a few things I want to inform you. And Rohai, you know? The ancestor of An's family has been killed along with more than a dozen monks of An's family, because he took part in the mysterious pursuit of Xian Crack. The old man who settled down? Yun Shu's face was smothered when he heard the words. Xuanmu didn't wait for him to respond. He continued, Jing San too, the ancestor of the Jing family, you should also know that this man also participated in the Xuanji pursuit of Xianxia. He and more than 20 children of the Jing family were also killed. Is it brother Xuanmu? Yun Shu's eyebrows trembled. He looked at Xuanmu and asked, and Rohai and Jing Sun too are very familiar with each other. They are different from him, but they are not different from Xuanmu's accomplishments. If Xuanmu killed the two great monks in Yupu, Yun Shu was a little surprised. Xuanmu shook his head slightly and said, it's not my hand, but the master of Xianxia. Master of the Dark Crack? Brother Xuanmu, please forgive Yun Shu for being shut up for many years. He is a little ignorant. He really doesn't know about Xuanxia's worship of his master, and who is his great monk. Cloud Shu smell speech in the heart is surprised, so a Xian Crack behind the backer of another. Haha, the master of Xianxia is not a great monk, but he has the means to kill him. This is Yi Tiandea. Then Xuanmu pointed to Yi Tian. Yi Tian? Yun Shu is stunned when he hears that Yi Tian is so big a living man here. Naturally, he can't miss it. From the beginning, he thought that Yi Tian was the son of the Xian family brought by the Xian Crack. He didn't even look at it, let alone say hello. When he heard that Xuanmu said that Yi Tian was Xuanxia's master, Yun Shu was really surprised. He knew that as Xuanmu, he would not lie about it. What's more, it was meaningless to use a little monk in Longmen to pretend to be Xuanxia's master. If Xuanmu was willing to give up his old face and tell any great friar, maybe Yun Shu would have to weigh whether it was true. Nice to meet you, Yi Daoyu. Anyway, hearing that Yi Tian had the means to kill the great friar of Yupu, Yun Shu said hello with a serious fist. He noticed that Xuanmu was talking about means, not strength. In other words, Yi Tian's own strength is not strong. In fact, no matter how powerful a Longmen realm is, can it be compared with Yuan Infant Realm and Huashan Realm? In the eyes of the great friars of Yupu Realm, the friars of Yuanying Realm and Huashan Realm are not worth mentioning at all. What Xuanmu said just now is the word means. These two words are quite interesting. Its connotation and denotation are very extensive. It can be regarded as having a secret method, having a treasure, even having a strong backer and a powerful monster. It can be regarded as a means. For those who are not familiar with him, Yun Shu has practiced for many years and lived for many years. Naturally, he will not offend Yi Tian easily because of these trivial things. Yi Tian just nodded slightly, and then said the first words since he appeared,
yes, I am the master of Xuanxie and Yunzhong. This time, I'm here for the justice of my two disciples. Yunkuan will die and Yunzhou will be destroyed. Even if you speak with Yunshu, it doesn't work. Since Xuanxie was shut down when he was persecuted by the Yun family, you should go to shut up when ye killed your Yi family. Yi Tian's words are very domineering. He doesn't look at Yunshu at all. Although Yunshu is a little afraid of Yi Tian's identity, he doesn't care about his cultivation. He takes a look at Xuanmu and says, "Brother Xuanmu, it seems that you are going to die with Yun today?" Brother Xuanmu doesn't care about our old love? Xuanmu laughed and said, "Old love? What is old love worth? Does the Cloud family have any old relationship with Xuanxie and Yunzhong? In the choice between is not to take refuge in the mystery, abandon the old love? What's more, if you think you can deal with me today, the Cloud family will be safe and sound, then you are very wrong." How about Xuanwu? He didn't let Yi Tian's disciples abolish his cultivation himself. Yi Tian's disciple? Do you abandon your accomplishments by yourself? Yunshu heard that he was really surprised this time. Yi Tian has only the cultivation of Longmen realm. No matter how strong his disciples are, where can they be? It's unthinkable that a great monk who has been in Yupu realm for many years has been abandoned. Today, the news he heard is even more shocking than one, which almost subverts his understanding of the world. What? Yunshu, don't you believe it? I can tell you that in the Lansang spiritual realm, as long as Yi Daoyu says a word, he doesn't need to do it in person, and any force will easily disappear. After destroying your Cloud family, the next one to be destroyed is Tianjin sect. Because this sect has done something wrong to Xinfeng and participated in the killing of Yi Daoyu, so it's time to destroy it. Xuanmu said coldly again. Who knows, when Yunshu heard Xuanmu finish, he laughed, "Ha ha. Brother Xuanmu, this joke is too big, isn't it? If you say that Yi Daoyu can easily destroy an aristocratic family, I may have some belief. But if you insist on saying one word from him, you can destroy any force in the Lansang spiritual realm. If you really have this ability, you can let this Yi Daoyu go to destroy the Xingyi clan and have a look." Hearing this, Xuanmu took a look at Yi Tian, and some inexplicable expressions appeared on his face. Yi Tian is also a look stagnant. Unexpectedly Cloud Shu will say this problem. Seeing the expression of two people looking at each other, Yunshu laughed again. How about it? What can you do when it comes to wings? Don't even dare to say a big word? Yunshu, some things are not what you think. Can you give Yi Daoyu a reason to destroy Xingyi? Xuanmu saw that Yi Tian didn't speak. If he didn't speak anymore, he was too weak. He frowned and asked. Why? I mean strength, not reason. I just ask if Yi Daoyu has destroyed the strength of Xingyi clan? Yunshu seems to feel that he has taken the lead and has to be forced to ask. As soon as Yunshu finished his question, before Xuanmu spoke, suddenly a ripple appeared in the sky, which was a spectacular scene. Everyone present knew that this kind of ripple must have been transmitted from other places by the great friar of Yupujing. Moreover, everyone present had seen the scene of the great monk transmitting, but it was the first time that so many ripples appeared at the same time. Even Yunshu is the same. There are nearly 20 ripples. How can there be so many great monks in Yupu realm at one time? When he was suspicious, he saw 18 great friars with a pair of flesh wings on them, and they showed their bodies from the ripples. Shang-Yi clan. Yunshu's heart suddenly jumped. When he saw that the eyes of the holy wing monks who appeared to him were full of hostility, he had a bad idea. Who said that he wanted to destroy the holy wing? Now the people of Xingyi are coming. Yunshu, if you want to destroy it, come on. I'll go on at any time. Lu Feng is also very good at acting. His expression and words are very good. It seems that everything is not negotiated, but real. Misunderstandings, you holy wing Taoist friends, what you just said is all misunderstandings. Seeing this posture, Yunshu could not help but be surprised. He quickly distinguished and said, just now, it was this Xuanmu Taoist friend. He said that this Yi Tian Taoist friend could destroy any force in the Lansang spiritual realm with just one word. Yun has always respected the Holy Wing clan, so in order to maintain the dignity of the Holy Wing clan, he suppressed them in the name of nobility. That's why I mentioned the name of Xingyi. If you have any offense, please forgive me. Yun Shu knows in his heart whether Yi Tian can destroy the Shangyi clan. But now the Shangyi clan wants to destroy the Yun family, it's basically a matter of moving their fingers. Not to mention that the rest of the Cloud family can't run, even if they are themselves, they certainly can't retreat. At this time, it is time for the Cloud family to face the crisis of life and death. Who knows, Lu Fang heard the speech, but he laughed and said, "You are really interesting. You are forcing my Grandmaster to kill the Xingyi clan. What's the reason? Grandmaster? What Grandmaster? Is this Yi Daoyu?" Cloud Shu, stunned to see to Leaf Day, incredibly say. "See the Grandmaster. See Shizu." At this time, Lu Fang and other great friars of the Holy Wing clan no longer pay attention to Yun Shu, but salute Yi Tian and Xuanxie respectively. "Yi Tian, empty lift, don't be too polite. Shin crack is a hand, everybody please rise." At this time, after the ceremony, Lu Fang and other talents stood up beside Yi Tian and did not squint. They really looked forward to Yi Tian's horse. Yi Tian glances at Yun Shu and knows that although he is dissatisfied with Yun Kuan, he must protect the Yun family from the interests of his family. And what Yun Kuan did is too much. If you want Yun Zhong to take charge of Yunjia, Yun Kuan must be removed. Seeing that Yun Shu was still in a daze, Yi Tian turned to look at Yun Kuan, then pointed to him and said, "Before destroying Yan's family, destroy this man first." As soon as he finished his sentence, Lu Fang's body came to Yun Kuan. Before Yun Shu could react, a sharp claw suddenly grabbed him, and his powerful magic power surged out. After a loud bang, Yun Kuan, who was very pale, had turned into nothing and splashed around. Yun Kuan, the leader of the Yuns, was killed by Lu Fang, the great friar of the Tianyi clan. "No. No. Don't do it for the time being." At this time, Yun Shu exclaimed and looked at Yi Tian. At this time, he already understood that although Yi Tian had the lowest accomplishments here, he was the absolute master. Everyone was following his orders. I really don't know what kind of means this person actually has to achieve such a level. But at this time, he had no time to think about it. He quickly hugged Yi Tian and said, "Yi Daoyu, please forgive me for what I have offended before. What's more, as Daoyu said just now, Yun Zhong is also a disciple of Daoyu, so Daoyu and the Yuns have a deep relationship. I hope you can raise your hand and let the Yuns go." However, Yi Tian turned his head and looked at Yun Shu carefully, as if he had only seen him for the first time. After a while, when Yun Shu was a little uncomfortable, Yi Tian snorted, "Yun Zhong is Ye's disciple, it's true. But Yun Zhong is Yun Zhong, and Yunjia is Yunjia. Yun Zhong has been chased by Yunjia and broke with Yunjia. Does Yi still care about those? No, Yun Zhong just broke with Yun Kuan. Yun Kuan is a sinner of the Yun family. He deserves to die. Now Yunmu has decided that from now on, Yun Zhong will take over all the affairs of the Yunjia family." Yun Shu seems to have made up his mind. He not only doesn't care about Yun Kuan's being killed, but also immediately distinguishes the relationship with Yun Kuan and makes arrangements for Yun Zhong's affairs. However, Yi Tian said coldly, "It's just your wishful thinking. You know that after many things before, Yun Zhong will accept your arrangement. Besides, there are so many branches of the Cloud family. If you let my disciples take charge of the Cloud family, you will not be killed. However, after Yi left, the Cloud family bullied my disciples again, so what? Now that the other side has given in, Yi Tian gang is ready to take advantage of this opportunity to fight for a greater voice for Yun Zhong. This opportunity must not be missed." Yun Shu didn't expect that Yi Tian would raise this question. He pondered a little. The problems mentioned by Yi Daoyu will never appear. I dare to give you a guarantee. If there are any problems, I will help Yun Zhong to be fair. On the one hand, if you can't do this, you won't agree to let Yun Zhong be the head of the Cloud family. Is it not good to travel around with Yi? Yi also has a condition. If the Cloud family is different from the inside and the outside, they will directly intervene in the affairs of the Cloud family and support Yun Zhong. At that time, don't use Yun Zhong's collusion with foreigners as an excuse to treat Yun Zhong this. Hearing this, Yun Shu hesitated a little. However, Tian continued, it doesn't matter whether you promise or not. It's just a matter of destroying the Cloud family one day earlier or later. A few days ago, some people in the Cloud family once took action against Yi. All those people have been killed by Yes people. I don't care to kill more people in the Cloud family. Up to now, it's the first time that Yun Shu has heard about it. Before, Yun Kuan only said that he would send people to follow the mystery to kill Xuanxie and Yunzhong, but he didn't mention a word. He frowned and looked at the children of the Yun family who followed Yun Kuan. What's going on? The voice is full of anger and dignity instead of the humility to Yi Tianshi. After Yunmu, Yundi, Yunchong were sent by Yun Kuan, in a few days, their original jade slips were all broken at the same time. One of the children of the Cloud family murmured, Yun Kuan, you deserve to die. Yun Shu suddenly became angry, his hair and beard were all open, and his momentum exploded. Look at this posture, if Yun Kuan died and revived, he would kill him again. However, he soon calmed down, repressed his anger, took a look at many great friars of the Holy Wing clan, and finally turned to Yi Tian, Yi Daoyu, I promise you this condition. Moreover, this matter will be written into the clan rules. If anyone has evil intentions towards Yunzhong and finds that I can't deal with him fairly, the great friars of the Holy Wing will take part in the implementation of the clan rules. Even the old man is willing to be punished without complaint. Yi Tian nodded his head and said, well, I hope that Taoist friends of the Cloud family can attach importance to the whole family of the Cloud family, otherwise Ye's disciples are not so easy to bully. With these words, a messenger appears in Yi Tian's hand, and the mana is inspired. The messenger turns into a flame and burns. Less than half an hour later, a distant light came from far and near, came to Yi Tian and politely said, see you, master. After Yi Tian reaches out his hand to help him, Yunzhong gets up and looks at Yunshu. Yunzhong has seen his ancestor. Yunshu doesn't think much of Yunzhong's ranking behind Yetian. Instead, he supports Yunzhong and says, Zhong'er, I've been shut up for a long time. I don't know until now that you've been wrong too much. Laozu, Yunzhong doesn't want to talk about it more. If a family can't provide enough protection for their children, it's really chilling to fight back in times of crisis. Shizu, don't blame Yunzhong for being disheartened to the Yuns. Yunzhong turned his head to one side, and his voice became a little cold. Zhong'er, one of the reasons is that he didn't care about the family affairs after the closure of his family. The other reason is that Yun Kuan is not a worthy owner. Now that he is given the first prize, my grandfather has decided that you will be in charge of the Cloud family. This is a heavy burden. You should not refuse. Only in this way can we be worthy of the ancestors of the Cloud family. Yunshu patted Yunzhong on the shoulder and said earnestly. Yunzhong slowly looked up at Yunshu, is that what Laozu meant? Or family? Yunshu said with a smile, it's not only the meaning of the ancestor, but also the meaning of the family. If it's not harmful to the overall interests of the family, you can do things freely in the Cloud family without any constraints. Laozu will fully support you. Moreover, the ancestor has promised your master that if the Cloud family has another place to apologize to you, the Taoist friends of the Xingyi clan can intervene in the family affairs and help you with justice. Yunshu finished, but Yi Tian took the words, Old 15, what Taoist friend Yun said is true, and I have promised you to succeed as the head of the Yun family. Ah, since the master has promised, the disciple will obey. Originally, what Yunzhong wanted was this result. With such a harmony, he would naturally go down the slope. Well, it's really gratifying that the Cloud family has a new leader to take over. I decided to hold a grand ceremony and invite people from all over the world to come and watch the ceremony to announce the whole Lansang spiritual realm. Here Cloud Zhong no matter be out of what psychology finally agreed to come down, Cloud Shu excitedly says. He is very clear in his heart that with the support of Xingyi clan, the Cloud family may go to unprecedented glory from now on. Who knows, Yunzhong is very indifferent to say, the ceremony thing or later, since Yunzhong succeeding Yanjiazu, then there is one thing, must be done first. What is more important than the succession ceremony? Cloud Shu ponders to ask away. Yunzhong said, since Yunzhong is allowed to preside over Yunjia, Yunzhong will have an idea. After that, Yunjia will abide by its duty and will not bully the weak outside.
But if you bully Yunjia, no matter who the other party is, Yunzhong will try his best to preside over justice.
Now Yunqing, Yunzhong's daughter, and Du Mingyue, the Taoist partner of his son Xianfeng, was originally a disciple of Tianjin sect. Because of the persecution of Tianjin sect, she was expelled from the sect first, and then persecuted by the sect 30 years later. Yunzhong is determined to go to Tianjinzong to seek justice, and then talk about other things.
This matter was mainly carried out by the Yun family. I sent my orders to mobilize 20 monks of the Yun family to go with Yunzhong to Tianjinzong.
Well, I'll arrange for the personnel.
Yun Shu listened to Yunzhong and said immediately. He has already understood that Yunzhong wants to establish power through things, not only in the outside world, but also in the Cloud family.
It's not bad for the Yun family. Yun Shu is happy to see it come true.
To tell the truth, it seems that the Yun family hasn't been so tough for many years. After all, Yun Shu is dedicated to cultivation and seldom cares about the common affairs of the family.
He doesn't want to get angry with other great friars in Yupu realm because of some trivial things.
Now that the Xians are here, the Xingyi are here, and there is Yunzhong, who seems to be in a low level, but has a lot of energy to support him. Yun Shu is willing to let the Yuns fire from now on. When he finished, his figure had disappeared from the original place. After less than a cup of tea, he saw the human figure flashing in the valley. Yun Shu had come into the air again with 20 people in the spirit realm. See you. As soon as they saw Yunzhong, the 20 people immediately bowed themselves and showed their courtesy very attentive.
Then he saluted many great monks and Yi Tian.
It's obvious that Yun Shu has announced Yunzhong's succession to the head of the Cloud family.
After a simple salute, he waved in the cloud and said in a loud voice, "Follow me to wipe out Tianjinzong."
With that, he moved and flew to the distance.
Xuanmu, Lu Feng and other great friars of the Holy Wing clan also disappeared. But Yi Tian flicked his finger and let out his own Dun Tiansuo. He quickly put it behind him and waved to Xuanxia, "Old 14, go with me as a teacher."
The mysterious crack still flashed and came to Dun Tiansuo.
Yi Tian played a magic power. Dun Tiansuo turned into a remnant shadow and soon disappeared in the void sky.
Yun Shu was suspended in the sky, looking at the direction of Yi Tian's disappearance. He had no words for a long time. After a long time, he turned around and said to the children of the Yun family, "Recall all the children of the Yun family, the first important thing of the whole family, and prepare for the ceremony of director of the family."
3 days later, Tianjian Mountain.
The original name of this mountain, which stretches for thousands of miles, is Chaomang Mountain.
How many years has this name been called?
Later, because there was a sect that established a sect here, the name of the mountain was changed to Tianjin Mountain.
This sect is the Tianjin sect where Du Mingyue lived.
At this time, outside Tianjin Mountain, Yi Tian had put away Dun Tiansuo and stood side by side with Xuanxian and Yunzhong. Behind them are more than 20 children of the Cloud family. Far away, a very high mountain rises, like a sword, straight into the sky, which is particularly eye-catching on the boundless sky of Tianjin Mountain. Many houses are scattered on the hillside and extend upward. At the top of the mountain, you can see many temples, which are surrounded by smoke and fragrant. Looking at the mountain temple in the distance, Yunzhong moves his hand and takes out his magic weapon cave. After zooming in, Xianfeng and Du Mingyue are summoned from it. This suddenly saw the familiar scenery. Du Mingyue, obviously a Lang, how can you get here?
Mingyue, today is specially for you to come to Tianjinzong, the Cloud family today for you to preside over justice, wash away your years of injustice. Yunzhong said.
At that time, Du Mingyue suddenly had a sour nose and tears ran down her cheek. No one could feel her grievances except herself. When she was in the most depressed and desperate situation, she hoped to return to the sect and have a foothold. However, such a small wish was heartlessly broken. He was willing to pray for it, but it was abandoned by the sect.
Taigong, Mingyue just wants to get some justice back. Please don't do more killing. Not everyone in Tianjinzong deserves to die.
Du Mingyue wiped her tears and choked. Yunzhong nodded slightly. We have our own discretion in this matter.
Let's go there now. After a group of people flew more than 10 miles to Tianjinzong, there was a reaction in Tianjinzong. Dozens of people flew up from the mountain and welcomed them here. You Taoist friends, it's really brilliant to visit Tianjianzone.
The first friar of Washenjing, who was a little fat, flew near and said to Xuanxie and Yunzhong. Then he saw Du Mingyue behind the crowd. He could not help frowning and narrowing his eyes.
Master Tian, I didn't expect you to know me, the traitor of Tianjin sect?
With this person's eyes touched, Du Mingyue flew to the front from the crowd. I said coldly.
Are you Du Mingyue? Your face?
After hearing what Du Mingyue said, the money master has determined the identity of the other party, but seeing that Du Mingyue can no longer see a scar on her face, she shows some incredible expression.
Yes, it was Du Mingyue of that year.
I didn't expect that I would meet Lord Tian one day, and it was on such an occasion. Du Mingyue's willow eyebrows are slightly raised, and the corners of her eyes are constantly shaking. It seems that she is not calm.
Who are these? Master Tian took his eyes away from Du Mingyue's face and looked at Xuanxie, Yunzhong, and many monks of the Cloud family. The patriarch obviously didn't recognize these people.
But Xian Crack took the lead in saying, I'm Xian Crack.
Should Xian Daoyu be familiar with this name? Didn't you ever send 7 disciples to join in the encirclement and suppression of Xuanmo?
One of them is Jing'an Dao, one is Wenqi, and the other is Zhou Lingshan.
Do you need me to finish my name one by one?
It turned out to be Xuan Dayu.
It's a misunderstanding. The disciples sent by Tianjianzong are just pretending. Dao Yu, what else can those disciples of Yuan Yingjing do? Is there any threat to Dao Yu?
Hearing this, Shen Zhizhou's face suddenly changed, and then a flattering smile appeared on his face to explain.
About Tianjianzong, Xuanxie has been known clearly by searching Xuanji's soul, otherwise he would not know the names of those people very accurately.
Hearing that Shen Zhizhou was still quibbling at this time, Xuanxie said with disdain, this account will be calculated later.
Today's protagonist is Yunzhong, the father of Du Mingyue's Taoist partner's mother, who is the current leader of the Yun family and the father of the Xuanmo's father-in-law. Yunzhong didn't talk as much as Xuanxie. He didn't mean to talk to Qian Zhizhou. He looked directly at Du Mingyue. Mingyue, how did this man treat you then? Is it killing or staying? Du Mingyue said, it was Master Qian who ordered Mingyue's master Yuan Qinghua to expel Tianjin sect. Originally, in order to curry favor with my family, this kind of behavior can be justified. But later, the Jiang family of Tianlong City came to Tianjianzong to get my original jade slips. It was the Master Qian who sold them to the Jiang family at the price of 1,000 yuan of fairy jade. Mingyue, you can't believe the rumor. It's nothing. Your original jade slips are still kept in the disciples' pavilion. Although you were expelled from the school, I still regard you as my disciple. But there are many enemies of Tianjin sect. If you return to the gate wall, you will be in a low level. I'm afraid you will be involved. Qian Zhizhou said with a heavy heart. I don't cry when I don't see the coffin. Yunzhong snorted coldly, motioned slightly, and released the magic weapon cave. Seeing this, Qian Zhizhou's eyes beat a few times, staring at Yunzhong's action, not knowing what he wanted to do. The magic weapon cave is quickly enlarged, and Yunzhong lifts the ban. Then he moves his hand and calls Jiang Wei out of it. Seeing Jiang Wei's 3 brothers, Qian Zhizhou's face suddenly changed. Judging from the dispirited breath of the 3 brothers, the 3 men's accomplishments had been abandoned, and the one life's accomplishments had been exhausted. But he didn't understand at this time. The 3 of the Jiang family must have been searched for their souls. They knew who they had met, what they had said and what they had done. And he is just one of the characters, what he did can't escape the memory of the lock soul. At this time, Chen Zhizhou knew that he could not deny it, but he slowly straightened up and said, since Du Mingyue has been expelled from the school, he is no longer a disciple of Tianjin sect. Even if our school sells his life jade slips, it is not a betrayal of his peers. And Du Mingyue was deeply favored by the emperor, and now she is still intact. If you Taoist friends feel aggrieved in your heart, Shen will decide to give Du Mingyue the 1,000 immortals, and then she will redeem her life. How about the jade slips? Yunzhong was very angry and laughed. Chen Zhizhou, I'm the first to see such a shameless person as you. There is nothing else today. I announce that you have terminated your cultivation. Let's keep company with the brothers of the Jiang family. Don't you dare, aren't you afraid that the master of the Xian family will wipe out your Cloud family in a rage? Chen Zhizhou turned pale and cried out. Master of the Xian family? Haha, the master of the Xian family is here. Xuanxie laughs a few times. With a gesture, he grabs Chen Zhizhou. Chen Zhizhou is already on guard. If he moves, he will turn into a light escape. He is just a late cultivation of the spirit state, and the dark crack has reached the peak of the spirit state. Under Yi Tian's guidance, his skill has already entered the realm. Chen Zhizhou's figure has just moved, and the dark crack is like a maggot of tarsal bone. His fingers are like steel claws, and he tightly clasps Chen Zhizhou's shoulder. Then his other palm is patted on the man's dantian again. Ah! With Chen Zhizhou's murmur, this person's breath quickly calmed down, and there was no previous arrogance. The rest of Tianjianzong ran around. With a wave of Yunzhong's hand, 20 monks of Yunjiao's divine realm ran after him. Among these people from Tianjianzong, only 3 are monks of Huaxinjing, the others are Yuanyingjing, and some of them are just practitioners of Jindanjing. Under the pursuit of 20 Yuanying strongmen, they were all captured and brought back soon. When they saw Mingyue, none of them said anything or came to talk about the past. It can be seen that they have no friendship with Du Mingyue. Since there is something wrong with Tianjianzong, these disciples are responsible for it, and they also abandoned their cultivation. Yunzhong took a look at Du Mingyue. Seeing that he was always a sudden look, he frowned and said. As soon as he finished his sentence, 20 monks of the Cloud family started at the same time. In a moment, they abandoned all the disciples of Tianjian sect. Then, with a wave of his hand, Yunzhong threw these people to the ground and flew to the gate of Tianjian sect. At this time, there was already a mess in Tianjian sect. This small sect with only over 300 disciples was suddenly invaded by a strong enemy. The cultivation of the sect leader was abandoned, and other disciples scattered as birds and beasts to seize the road. Xuanxie's figure moved, and he came to the peak where Tianjianzong was. He said in a loud voice, all Tianjianzong disciples are not allowed to leave. If anyone moves without permission, they will abandon their cultivation. Although his voice was very loud and spread far away, even the disciples of Tianjianzong who had fled to the horizon could hear it clearly, but no one turned back, just kept speeding up their flight. Yi Tian saw the scene, raised his right hand high in the air, and then slowly fell. With his action, he saw that a figure suddenly appeared in the sky. In a moment, he caught more than 30 disciples of Tianjianzong who had escaped, and then slowly flew back to Tianjianzong. The disciples of Tianjianzong, who fled in the middle of the journey, saw this scene and turned around to return to the direction of Tianjianzong. 20 monks of the Cloud family fled quickly and surrounded them. Sheng Yi clan. On Tianjianfeng, a disciple of Tianjianzong in Yuanyingjing changed his face when he sensed the figure flying back from the horizon. He said to many confused disciples around him, no one can escape. They are the great friars of Xingyi clan. There are 18 of them. There is another great friar in Yupu kingdom. I don't know what his identity is. I can't imagine that the small Tianjianzong once brought 19 great friars and 2 giants, the Xian family and the Yun family, to be doomed to disaster. Uncle Zhou, can't you escape? Asked a 20-year-old nun who was looking at the sea. You can't escape, but if you don't escape, you may not have a way to live. It was a disciple who was expelled from the school this time. It's a pity. Who could have expected that this disciple had such a big background? This time he came back, he was so inspiring. As far as I know, this team of such scale is the first time in Longsan Lingyu. If we want to meet a couple of great monks in Yupu, we are all men. Unexpectedly, we can see 19 monks today, and 18 of them are the most mysterious great friars of the Holy Wing clan in the legend. I don't know, how can Du Mingyue have something to do with the Holy Wing clan? The monk of Yuanyingjing was looking at the horizon, murmuring, and his face was very ugly. Sheng Yi clan. The young nun covered her mouth with her hand and repeated a sentence. She didn't say a word again. Although he had little experience, how could he not know the most mysterious and frightening Holy Wing people in Longsan's spiritual realm? At this time, not only the monks in this place did not attempt to escape, but also the disciples in other courtyards on the mountain did not dare to escape, just waiting for the final fate.
Sun Hohat. You should remember Du Mingyue in those days.
Just when the disciples of Tianjian sect were worried, Du Mingyue's divine thoughts dispersed, then flew to a courtyard on the hillside, and fell in front of a middle-aged nun in the courtyard.
Sister Du, it was my fault. Please forgive me.
Seeing that Du Mingyue was the first one to find herself, the nun named Sun Hohat said with a change of face.
Obviously, she could see the source of the chaos.
Sun Hohat, I can spare you for other things, but I can't spare you for the things you gave me.
Over the years, my hatred for you has never stopped.
If younger martial sister Zhao hadn't told me secretly, I would have hated you all my life.
Du Mingyue gritted her teeth and said, I don't want your life for a few days, just your vanity. It seems that Du Mingyue experienced a lot in Tianjian Zone. No wonder she finally chose a person to travel around the world. After she was disfigured, she dared to go back to Tianjian Zone, and then she got that experience again.
Yi Tian looks at what happened in the courtyard, sighs and flies to the distance. He doesn't want to see how Du Mingyue ended her previous grievances, but he believes that with Du Mingyue's kindness, he won't do too much. When Yi Tianfei was several miles away from Tianjian Peak, suddenly, on a mountain below, a shadow and lightning shot at Yi Tianfei. A sword in his hand instantly fell away and cut into Yi Tian like a flash of cold light. Yi Tian's figure moves, and two golden black bone wings appear in a flash behind him. With a light fan, he has reached a very far distance. The man still wanted to chase Yi Tian, but he saw a flash of human shadow.
Lu Feng had already appeared in front of him.
His claws pierced his shoulder. With a little force, he sealed his cultivation. Then he came to Yi Tian. This is a man who seems to be middle-aged. His face is fierce. He doesn't seem to be able to kill Yi Tian with one blow. He is very unwilling in his heart.
A monk of Yuan Yingjing dares to attack Yi.
I'm afraid you don't know that two great monks of Yupujing have fallen into Ye's hands. Do you say it yourself or let Yi search for his soul?
Why attack Yi?
Sensing this person's cultivation realm, Yi Tian drinks coldly in his eyes and asks.
My elder brother has been abandoned by you.
Of course, I will kill you to get rid of your hatred, so I can only choose the lowest cultivation. It's just that you ran too fast and you escaped.
I'm not reconciled to Qian Zhijian,
said the friar bitterly.
After listening to this person, Yi Tian laughed and said, good name. Let's go to cultivation. Yi Tian finished, Yuan Tian's eyes looked around and continued to fly to the distance. Behind him, a moment later, there was a dull hum. Yi Tian didn't have to look back. He also knew that the man named Qian Zhijian had been abandoned.
More than half an hour later, Yi Tian, who was waiting in the distance, finally saw Xuanxie, Yunzhong and Du Mingyue flying towards him from the peak.
Master, it's done. No one was killed. 4 of them abandoned their cultivation and announced the collapse of Tianjian sect. Later, those disciples of Tianjian sect will leave the mountain automatically, and Tianjian sect will no longer exist.
Don't wait for Yi Tian to ask, Cloud Zhong takes the lead to report away. Yi Tian nodded and said, now that we have let the Xingyi clan cheer for the Cloud family, I believe that the relationship between the Cloud family and the Xingyi clan will soon spread through the mouth of the disciples of Tianjian sect. Next, what you should do is the matter between the Xuanjia and the Cloud family. As a teacher, I will no longer participate in it. I'll go to the Xingyi clan for this trip.
Go to Huqiu Gorge and go to Luotian Lingyu through the space channel.
Well, I'll arrange the family affairs a little, and then I'll go to Huqiu Gorge to wait for the master. Cloud Zhong and Xian Crack quickly say.
Yi Tian nodded slightly and waved to the distance. Lu Feng and other 18 great friars of the Holy Wing clan flew over in a flash, and Yi Tian said, come on, go to the Holy Wing clan. In this way, I have wronged my grandmaster for the time being. I will take my master to move there.
Lu Feng said with a bow. After Yi Tian nodded, he put his arm around Yi Tian's waist, and then they disappeared from the same place at the same time.
The other 17 great friars, too, performed the great move.
Feeling that after more than 10 times of moving, Yi Tian found that he had come to the void. Yi Tian nodded to himself, just like what he had guessed. As expected, the location of the Holy Wing clan was also in a void crack. If we go back to Earth, we need to see if we can find a suitable void crack, which may be useful at a critical time. If you don't move to the crack of void, even the great friars of Yupu will die. Yi Tiandian came down from Lu Fang's arm and flew alone. After 40 or 50 miles, the group stayed in front of a space crack. It seems that there is no difference between this space crack and other space cracks. There are 4 similar void cracks nearby, which are generally the same appearance. It's here. The disciples enter first. There's a little space to crush, but it's extremely slight. The master can certainly stand it. Lu Fang finished speaking to Yi Tian, his figure flashed, and he had already put himself into the void crack. Yi Tian followed him without hesitation. Indeed, as Lu Fang said, the crushing force of space was extremely slight. Even if he didn't use mana to protect his body, he could easily bear the crushing force just by virtue of his immortal body. Standing in the space, Yi Tian's space is very different from that of Xuanjia. First of all, there is no protection field like Xuanjia's, not even a shred of it. It's all green and fragrant. It can't see the end at a glance. It's all spiritual materials. Is this what you call the medicine garden? Yi Tian asked in surprise. All the places he could see were spiritual materials. Some buildings in the distance seemed to be built just to guard the medicine garden. They were scattered, east and west, very irregular. Seeing Yi Tian's appearance, Lu Fang said with a laugh, "Grandmaster, yes, this is the medicine garden of Xingyi people." Coincidentally, when crossing the void and passing through the Lansang spiritual realm, some people happened to be involved in this space crack by a python. At that time, in order to rescue the people, our ancestors ventured into the void crack. They thought that since the python could survive in the space crack, the Terran friars would have no problem. Sure enough, the crushing force of the space inside is extremely weak. The elder of our family easily entered it. Then he unexpectedly found that this space is actually a medicine garden. Many precious spiritual materials in it have been tens of thousands of years. Moreover, the number of these spiritual talents is extremely large. These spiritual talents are precious to the Xingyi people. At that time, under the leadership of their predecessors, they explored the whole space. In addition to the python, there are 4 other guardian monsters, all of which have been subdued one by our ancestors. Originally, we only went through the Lansang Lingyu and prepared to go to the Dahuang Lingyu. But after we got this medicine garden by chance, our ancestors prepared to give up the journey to the Dahuang Lingyu and settle down in the Lansang Lingyu. Naturally, they settled down in this space. It's hundreds of miles around, enough for the people to live here. Hearing this, Yi Tian couldn't help but marvel, and asked, "Then nobody came to this space crack again? The owner of the medicine garden didn't come back?" Lu Fang shook his head. "It's very strange that no one has ever come, and even our ancestors have searched the souls of those guarding monsters. But it's strange that the memories of those monsters have been erased, and no valuable clues have been obtained." Yi Tian nodded slowly, and began to look at the spiritual materials. These spiritual materials are very young, most of which are decades old, but there are many kinds, many of which are rare treasures outside. Yi Tian is flying slowly in the low altitude, and his eyes brighten from time to time. There are many spiritual materials that are of great use to him. Moreover, Yi Tian notes that the spiritual soil where these spiritual materials are planted is very low, far inferior to all his original 5-color spiritual soil, not to mention the 7-color spiritual soil, which is known as the heavenly spiritual soil. The original quality of these spiritual soil is not very good. After tens of thousands of years of use, the aura in it has been consumed so much that it is no longer worthy of these rare spiritual materials. Seeing that Yi Tian was very careful about these spiritual talents, Lu Fang and others slowly followed him, but they didn't say much. Unless Yi Tian asked something, they would answer in detail one by one. After dozens of miles of walking, Yi Tian finally stopped and asked, "Why are these spiritual materials so few years old? Are they all used up?" Lu Fang said with a bitter smile, "Shizu thinks why there are so many great friars in Yupujing in our family. In fact, they are all piled up with spiritual materials.
Since entering this medicine garden space, there has been no day without the consumption of spiritual materials. I don't know how many thousands of years have passed. No matter how many spiritual materials there are in the space, they can't help being consumed like this. However, in order to improve the strength of our family as soon as possible, in addition to the spiritual materials reserved for seeds, as long as they are a little older, they will be consumed. That's why the current situation is caused. As a matter of fact, it's time for the Xingyi people to lose touch with each other. The lack of spiritual talent has affected the cultivation of the young people in the area. On the surface, Xingyi is powerful, but they know their own things. If we can't break through to Tiangong, and our descendants can't break through to Yupu quickly, our family will surely decline one day.
This is the status quo of our family.
When Yi Tian heard the speech, he nodded slightly. After a little deduction, he could draw a conclusion. The root of this is that the Holy Wing people are eager for success, and do not consider the sustainable development. In fact, it's no wonder that the elders of the Holy Wing clan, as far as any force is concerned, will consider making use of the existing conditions to maximize their own strength, and then fight for resources. However, spirituals are extremely valuable resources in any place and are extremely rare. It's very valuable to be able to preserve so many seedlings like the Xingyi.
Grandmaster, now you can call the people together and meet the Grandmaster?
Looking at Yi Tian, Lu Fang asked softly. Yi Tian shook his head and said, "Don't stir up the masses.
The people are busy practicing. Don't disturb them."
But Lu Fang said obstinately, "It's the courtesy of our people to see the Grandmaster. Just now I saw the Grandmaster looking at those spiritual talents, so I didn't dare to interrupt him easily."
If the Grandmaster is just a little worried, it's unnecessary.
With these words, he said to a great friar of the Holy Wing clan beside him, "Summon the clan urgently." The great friar nodded. With a gesture, 3 white light balls flew out of his hands, straight up into the air, and then exploded in the air. This is the highest and lowest level summoning order of the clan. As long as you can move, you have to climb over. Lu Fang saw Yi Tian looking at the ball of light in the sky and explained quickly. Yi Tian gently waved his hand, stopped Lu Fang's next words, and continued to stare at the sky. When he knew that many holy winged people were flying to this side, he turned his eyes and said to Lu Fang, "I think I know who left this medicine garden."
"Who is it? How did the Grandmaster know?"
Lu Fangjing asked, and even the 17 friars beside him looked at Yi Tian curiously.
"It's Sui Huan."
With that, Yi Tian frowned slightly and looked up at the sky again. Lu Fang and others stretched out their hands to the distance, blocking the clansmen who came in a hurry when they heard the call. A moment later, Yi Tian turned back, looked at Lu Fang and others, and said, "I think it's no accident that the ancestors of Xingyi clan passed by here by chance and were involved in the void crack by the python. It's probably a move made by Sui Huan Cloth. He intentionally led you into the void crack, and these spiritual materials were left to Xingyi clan by him."
"How can I see it?" Lu Fang's face showed the color of meditation. He thought about it but couldn't get to the point, so he asked. Yi Tian didn't answer his question.
Instead, he said, "At the beginning, I met Sui Huang in the Earth Star, and even I met you in the Langsang spiritual realm."
Maybe it was in Sui Huang's calculation.
Otherwise, there would be no such coincidence. And I got the divine power of Tian Linji and passed on the original idea of Sui Huang Temple. Maybe it's also in his plan.
Sui Huang is not dead, there are still ghosts.
I think he's playing a big game of chess, and we've all become his pieces, but what does Sui Huang need us to do?
Do we need to save him? Or is there any crisis that we can't feel now, that Sui Huang has considered the future for us tens of thousands of years ago?
Yi Tian said, but he didn't say all his thoughts, because it was his own secret. At the beginning, because of Feng Yiden's affairs in Fangsu and Lingyu, he fell down under the siege of the 8 friars, and then he was reborn on the earth.
Is this also in Sui Huang's calculation? Otherwise, I would have gotten the idea of Sui Huangwen in my previous life?
Then after rebirth, it seems that there is no better choice but to practice this method.
These are the places that Yi Tianbai couldn't understand. Grandmaster, how can you judge that this medicine garden was left by Sui Huang? Lu Fang didn't dare to make any judgment about what Yi Tian said. he asked Yi Tian instead. Yi Tian Dao said, when I released the summoning order just now, I happened to look into the air, but I found that the clouds in the air suddenly changed and turned into a face of the Sui Emperor. The eyebrows were so clear and the expression was vivid. I've seen the real person of the Sui Emperor, so I can be sure that that face is indeed the Sui Emperor. And he smiles at me in the sky and nods. Don't be too surprised. You can't see it. I tried. It can only be seen through the eye of heaven, but it can't be seen by the naked eye. When listening to Yi Tian, Lu Fang and the other 18 great friars of the Holy Wing clan all looked up at the sky, hoping to see the smiling face depicted by Yi Tian, but they never saw a trace. Until Yi Tian finally said it, they withdrew their eyes and looked at Yi Tian and pondered. Yi Tian continued, what you cultivate is the idea of Sui Huang Temple. Only Sui Huang knows about it in Longsong spiritual realm. Just now, after observing these spiritual materials on the ground, I found that a large part of them were most suitable for friars who practiced Sui Huang Temple. According to the description of our ancestors, is it the first spiritual materials of the last year that made our strength rise rapidly? I believe those spiritual materials are also planted by the friars who cultivate the idea of Sui Huangguan. Lu Fang thought about it, then nodded, yes, that's right. If our Grandmaster doesn't tell us, we haven't noticed this problem. We think it's just a coincidence. If you connect all of what the Grandmaster said, you will find that there is a coincidence in it. It's really incredible. Yi Tian once again said with a smile, this is not enough, you have a look at this. With these words, Yi Tian takes out 2 Shumi commandments, erases the mark of divine thoughts on them, and gives them to Lu Fang. Lu Fang took Shumi commandment doubtfully, quickly marked one of them with the brand of divine thoughts, and looked at the contents. When he saw the innumerable 7-color spirit soil in it, even when he arrived at Yupu, Lu Fang couldn't help exclaiming, my God! There are so many heavenly lands, look at that Shumi ring again. Yi Tian nodded slightly. Lu Fang continued to mark another Shumi ring with the brand of divinity. Then he looked up, and his face changed again. Then he looked at Yi Tian and said, Grandmaster, where do you get such a huge amount of heavenly land? Yi Tian took a long breath, it doesn't matter where you got it. What's important is that when you need this spiritual soil, I came, and I brought this spiritual soil. What's more, the time field that I can arrange just helps Tian Lingdi to ripen your talents. Is this also a coincidence? But this time I went back to the starry sky, but I got rid of the breath of destruction of many holy winged people, and then met you through them. What a coincidence, isn't it? Sure enough, it can't be explained by coincidence at all. Lu Fang also pondered. Yi Tian continued, in addition, the golden black bone wings, which have always been treasured by the Xingyi people, just happen to be used on me. And you don't need it. I just need it. Where do you get this pair of golden black bone wings? Did you get it in this medicine garden? Listen to Yi Tian say. Lu Fang and the other 17 great friars suddenly changed color, almost at the same time exclaimed. But Lu Fang was the first to say, yes, it's from the medicine garden. At that time, there were demons and beasts guarding it. Originally, our ancestors only thought that Jinwu had fallen here. Now, it's Sui Huang's intention, and his original intention is to leave it to his ancestors. Yi Tian nodded and said, now it seems that this should be the case, and what he left is the golden black with innate firepower, which just corresponds to the idea of Sui Huang Temple that we cultivate together. And the grass that I got before can just reproduce the wings, which has a great effect not only on me, but also on the Holy Wing people. According to the Grandmaster, this should be the case. Otherwise, there is no way to explain why there are so many spiritual talents in this space, and the memory of those guarding monsters has been erased. If the master here is someone else and falls outside by chance, there is no need to erase the memory of those spirit beasts? If it's a memory erased by outsiders, how can these talents become ownerless? Lu Fang murmured. The more he said, the more he felt that everything was just like what Yi Tian guessed. It was Sui Huang who did it. Yi Tian continued to ponder. For the time being, according to the layout of Sui Huang, we should say that the situation has reached a very urgent level, and we need to use the time field and Tianling to help you ripen Linkai. If you calculate by time, it may not take 50 years, and there will be a huge crisis.
Therefore, clan leader Lu, you must make full use of the 50 years, not only to enhance the overall strength of the whole clan, but also to have someone break through the heavenly palace. Otherwise, in my opinion, I'm afraid that the cultivation of Yupu realm will not be enough at that time. Yes, it seems that this should be the case. Since the patriarch told me so, I have decided to hold a large-scale cultivation activity within the whole family. The name is 50 years of painstaking cultivation, which requires safety in cultivation. Listening to Yi Tian, Lu Fang also felt a deep sense of crisis. Smell speech, Yi Tian haha smile, Lu Fang said the slogan, how do we feel some familiar with it? After thinking about it, he said, it's better to add a slogan, that's survival and development. Well, the Grandmaster's words are true, and he has got the essence of the cultivation of this medicine garden. The disciples will make the people understand the Grandmaster's original intention very well and cultivate him hard for 50 years. Lu Fang exclaimed. After that, he waved to the distance, and the holy winged people who had already gathered there quickly flew over and saluted Lu Fang and other great friars, see patriarch, see elders. Xingyi people pay great attention to etiquette. After many people have finished their ceremony, Lu Fangkai raised his hand and said, please get up. Today, I'm calling all the people to meet my ancestors. This is Mr. Yi. All the people pay a big tribute to me. Then Lu Fang pointed to Yi Tian. These Xingyi people look at Yi Tian one after another, and their eyes show the color of doubt. However, since the clan leader has given orders, they kneel down in the air without hesitation, call themselves grandfathers, kowtow to Yi Tian 3 times in a row, and then they get up one after another. When Yi Tian's hands were empty, he felt the realm of the more than 1,000 holy winged people. Among them, nearly 200 monks had entered the realm of deification, most of them were monks in Yuanying realm and Jindan realm. On the contrary, there are fewer monks in the cave and sea view, less than 200. There is only one young Shengyi ethnic group, about a teenager. Yi Tian specially observed the ratio of men and women of these people. Generally speaking, there is not much difference. There are only a few more men. When Yi Tian is observing these people, they are also observing Yi Tian, and their eyes are all under Yi Tian's ribs, because there are no wings there. Seeing this kind of vision, Yi Tian immediately understood the meaning of Xingyi people. It seems that without wings, there will be a sense of distance. So think, Yi Tian idea move, behind the 2 pairs of bone wings immediately out of thin air, deliberately fan a few times. Look, the Grandmaster has 2 pairs of wings. Some young people began to talk quietly. Otherwise, how could he be a Grandmaster? The wings can shrink. A young woman next to him looked envious. Grandmaster's wings are more beautiful than ours. Another nun's eyes are about to shine. Hearing their comments, Yi Tian quickly put away 2 pairs of wings, thinking that he couldn't do it anymore. In this way, didn't he become a peacock? You people, our ancestors came from our ancestors and brought us the original idea of Suiwang Temple. There were some defects in the idea of Suiwang Temple that we practiced before. The original idea of Suiwang Temple was improved by Empress Suiwang. If you practice Suiwangwen, you can practice faster and reach a higher level. This is the first gift that the patriarch brought to our family. Lu Fang said at this time, the second gift, the patriarch brought us a kind of divine power of heavenly wings. After the cultivation of the people in Yupu, they can achieve a short distance in small blink. Feel the gift of the Grandmaster. When Lu Fang finished speaking, many people said out loud. Everyone's face was full of excitement. As for the third gift, the great amount of Tianling earth given by the patriarch to our family can make these spiritual materials grow faster and more effective. The fourth gift is that the patriarch will set up a time field in the clan, and practice in the field. 1 day can hold up to 2 days. A year can hold up to 2 years for the spirit wood growing in the field. Lu Fang continued. Thank you, Grandmaster. Thank you, Grandmaster. There was another burst of cheering among the Holy Wing people. Yi Tian put a virtual pressure on his hands to stop the cheering of the crowd, and then said, Today, I've brought you a gift. Listen to Yi Tian say so. Lu Fang also can't help Lang, quickly looked at Yi Tian. But Yi Tian took out the magic weapon cave in no hurry, then contacted the defense prohibition, and called 96 Kunlun practitioners out of it.
This is the gift I bring today. It's your people. Yi Tian said to those Kunlun people. People, real people. More than 1,000 holy winged people immediately fluttered their wings and surrounded Kunlun Xiu, who had just come out of it, with an extremely friendly attitude. As soon as the 96 Kunlun Shogun came out of the cave, they were still in a daze, but then they saw a lot of Xingyi people. They had already understood what was going on, and their eyes were moist. It was the first time that they saw so many people. It seemed that they were back to the time when they were in Kunlun Mountain and the scene where many people gathered. Seeing the two sides greeting each other, asking and talking with each other, Yi Tian smiles, waves to Lu Fang and others, and flies to the distance. Patriarch, after many years of reproduction, our people should be very prosperous. How can we only have 1,000 people? Yi Tian asked. Lu Fang sighed and said, the problem of rending Buwang has existed for a long time. It's difficult for our people to have a son. Maybe it's related to the fact that there were only 12 families here at first. Now every ethnic group here has complicated blood relationship with each other. When Lu Fang said this, Yi Tian understood at that time that the crux of the problem was here. It seems that this Holy Wing clan is really a little special. Looking back at the scenes of the Kunlun people and the Xingyi people, Yi Tian pondered, it will take some time to set up the time field. Since the people I brought are determined to return to the Earth Star, their minds are not easy to change. Let them get along freely these days. I hope that the people of the Holy Wing can be more vigorous. It's so good. There are some people of the right age in the clan who don't have suitable Taoist partners. Let's rely on their own mind. Lu Fang said with a slight smile. This time the founder came. Did he bring many Holy Wing people, which is also the meaning of Sui Huang? Ha ha ha, this can only ask Sui Huang himself. If so, he really worries a lot. With a laugh, Yi Tian turns back and shrinks the magic weapon cave. There are also his disciples in it. Yi Tian doesn't want them to do anything that shouldn't happen in this space. It's not too late. Let's see where to set up the time field. Let's start here. Put away the magic weapon cave, Yi Tian said immediately. Thank you, Grandmaster. Please follow me. Lu Fang finished and took the lead to fly to the depth of space. After flying for nearly 100 li, Lu Fang stopped at the edge of a lake and said, the aura here is the most abundant. Let's choose this place for the people to practice. The people usually practice here too. Yi Tian felt it for a while. It's true. Those rich auras are emanating from the lake. They are far more powerful than those in other places. Even the sapwood around here grows more luxuriantly than other places. Yi Tianlu made a microscopic survey of the terrain and estimated that there was enough space for his predecessor to practice, so he had a number in his mind. Instead of rushing to start, he took out a jade slip and recorded in detail the method of arranging the time field. It took him more than half an hour to write down the complicated field layout methods, including the depiction of various symbols and the materials needed. Here is the arrangement method of time field. You can get familiar with it first. When I arrange it later, you can watch the whole process and feel it carefully. It's impossible for me to finish all the arrangements in terms of the size of the garden. Once you learn, you can arrange them by yourself at any time. When Yi Tian handed over the jade slips to Lu Fang, he asked. Shizu. Xingyi people thank Shizu for his kindness. Hearing what Yi Tian said, Lu Fang was stunned. An incredible expression appeared in his eyes, and then he bowed to Yi Tian deeply. You know, all the monks who have the unique magic power in their hands will always cherish themselves and never pass it on to anyone, just like the hermit skill of the Xian family, which can't be learned by people outside the Xian family. Xuanxie just passed this skill to Yunqing, but it became the reason for Xuanji to punish him. As far as Lu Fang knows, this field, which can change the time and velocity, has never appeared in the Lansang spirit field, and it belongs to an extremely secret array method. If anyone masters this arrangement method, it means that his forces will grow rapidly and soar to the sky. Originally, Lu Fang thought that Yi Tian was just helping the Xingyi people to set up the time field. He would never teach this method to his family. But now, it seems that he was wrong. In this regard, Yi Tian didn't think much of it. He just waved his hand and said, "Don't care too much, clan leader Lu. Since you respect Ye's grandmaster, these are small things. Now don't say much. Let's feel it carefully." Lu Feng looks at Yi Tian gratefully and nods heavily. His mind goes into the jade slips and reads them carefully. Taking advantage of this time, Yi Tian began to take out the materials needed to arrange the time field from Shumi commandment, and put them in order. The amount of Xinyu needed to arrange such a large time field is very large, but it is nothing for Yi Tian. But Yi Tian was able to take out such a large number of Xinyu, which surprised the great friars of the Holy Wing clan such as Lu Feng. Yi Tian is not in a hurry to set up the field immediately, but has been waiting for Lu Feng to understand the method of setting up the field in the jade slips. After Lu Feng finished reading it, he handed the jade slips to a big monk of his family, who was familiar with the field, and asked him to read them again. In this way, more than 2 hours passed in a flash. "Grandmaster, you can set up the field." It was not until the great friar of the Holy Wing clan studied it carefully several times that he put down the jade slip and said, "Well, I'll start to set up the time field, and try to slow down as much as possible, so that you can see clearly. If you have any questions, please ask me at any time." Yi Tian nodded and said, "Thank you, Shizu." Hearing this, the great monk was delighted and looked at the pile of array materials on the ground with bright eyes. "Look at it. First, you need to lay Xianyu according to the position described in the jade slips. These Xianyu are used as a power to support the continuous operation of the time field. If you find that some Xianyu have insufficient aura, you can replace them in the original position to ensure the continuous operation of the time field. This kind of time field consumes a lot of Xianyu, which is the price of exchanging resources for time." As Yi Tian said, he reached out and held a water fairy jade in his hand. Then, with a seemingly random flick, the fairy jade flew out of his hand and drew a beautiful arc. Then, it suddenly sank down and went deep into some soil. This fairy jade is the benchmark for setting the next field. This position is very important and must be selected accurately. All the subsequent arrangement of the fairy jade is based on this position. However, it must be noted that the attributes of the fairy jade must not be mistaken. Yi Tian explains that he once again picks up a wooden fairy jade in his hand. Then he flicks it easily. The fairy jade flies out again and plunges into the ground. This wooden fairy jade is the first arrangement of field runes. The position of the buried fairy jade should form several runes with this fairy jade, and then each rune echoes with each other to form a unified field. Yi Tian continued to explain, all the positions and field symbols are indicated in the jade slips. Now I need to speed up a little, otherwise it will take a lot of time to set up this time field. Listening to Yi Tian's words, the 18 great monks, including Lu Feng, were surprised. After the great friar read the jade slips, other great friars also took it and read it again. They knew that the arrangement of time field was very strict with the position of Xianyu. But Yi Tian seems to play it casually, but the position of Xianyu is extremely accurate, even to the point that it is not bad at all. Just because of the control ability of this magic power, these great monks of Yupu realm also feel very admire. All the people present knew that Yi Tian could not compare with any of them in terms of the power of magic alone, but they were inferior in terms of the control of magic power and the grasp of the location of Xianyu. Moreover, this is the result of Yi Tian's control of speed, so if the patriarch speeds up the speed, what can he do? Can you maintain the same precise mana control? With such doubts in their hearts, they continue to watch Yi Tian's arrangement. However, what shocked them once again was that Yi Tian's so-called speed-up was so fast that he changed the previous method and used incredible means. Yi Tian no longer called Xianyu into his hand, but made a gesture. A huge magic power came out of his hand and turned into more than a dozen. With a random brush on the pile of Xianyu, more than a dozen Xianyu flew out with his magic power. Draw a shining arc in the air, fly out from different directions, fall in different positions, then suddenly turn around and plunge down to the ground. Where the fairy jade falls, there is no shadow of the fairy jade anymore. Only the holes made by the fairy jade are arranged on the shore of the lake. The arrangement of the black holes is exactly the shape of the small half-field pattern. The most important thing is that the attributes of those Xianyu are exactly the same as those described in the jade slips, and none of them is wrong. It's amazing. It's not human.
Many great friars of the Holy Wing clan were petrified in an instant. Feel the position of these Xianyu.
This is the first rune pattern prototype of the layout.
There should be no mistake in the position, and there should be no deviation in the depth of the buried Xianyu.
When you decorate these Xianyu, you must be careful, not too casual, and be as serious as I am.
As Yi Tian said, everyone looked at each other. There seems to be a lot to express in the eyes, but no one said it.
Isn't that too casual? What if it's more casual?
Everyone had such questions in their hearts, but everyone was deeply impressed by Yi Tian's way of arranging the field. If you want to learn from a grandmaster, you have to learn the strongest side of a grandmaster. We all know the principles, but we need to figure out and comprehend how far we can arrange it. Please arrange the field with the fastest speed, so that we can know where the upper limit of speed is," said the great friar, who knew the field.
Yi Tian smelled speech. The eye showed some inexplicable expression. Sidehead looked to this big friar, asked, "Are you sure to see my fastest speed?"
"Yes, please do it as fast as you can." The friar nodded obstinately. "Well, if you have ambition, you can watch it." Yi Tian laughs and says that his mana bursts out. This time, he no longer uses his mana to control the flight path and landing point of Xianyu, but throws out his left and right sleeves to bombard the pile of Xianyu. Where the magic power carried by the sleeve of the robe goes, many immortals and jades on the pile of immortals and jades immediately soar up and fly everywhere, and then they seem to fly down without any rules and plunge into the earth.
It's a dizzying flow. Moreover, the flying range of Xianyu was gradually expanded.
At first, she only flew and landed at a distance of about 300 or 500 meters with Yi Tian as the center. Later, some Xianyu's flying distance was far beyond this distance, reaching a level of 2 or 3 miles. Even if it was such a flight, it suddenly changed its direction at last. At a certain moment, it went to the ground, leaving dark holes on the ground. This. Up to now, many great friars of the Holy Wing clan have understood what Yi Tiangang said.
This is not a field arrangement at all. How can they control so many Xianyu so accurately with the random swing of the sleeves? This technique should not appear in the layout field at all.
However, when the great monk silently felt the runes recorded in the jade slips, and compared them with the positions and attributes of the immortals under Yi Tianbu, he was surprised to find that the whereabouts of the immortals were exactly where they should be, and there were no mistakes in their attributes. The great friar compared himself. Even if he looked for them according to these positions and laid them one by one, he might not be as accurate as the grandmaster.
www.novelhall.com. How about the speed? Can you see clearly? Yi Tian suddenly stops and asks.
You can see clearly, that is, you need to understand many layout positions one by one. It's impossible to learn them at once, and I'm afraid we can't master this technique of our ancestors in 100 years. Said the great friar, with a look of shame on his face.
Who can be skillful? If you arrange more times, there will always be progress.
Yi Tian nodded slightly and said that, in fact, the great monk said that he had been doing it for 100 years, but he didn't exaggerate.
The difficulty of this arrangement lies in the precise control of mana.
And it's not the control of one mana, but the control of dozens of mana. If the separation of mana reaches a very accurate level, it is not only a matter of mana, but also the cooperation of the divine mind. The two must cooperate very skillfully to achieve the unity of mana and divine mind. Otherwise, as long as there is a deviation in the released jade, the time field cannot be successfully arranged. Yi Tian's idea of cultivating Sui Wangwen is far beyond that of a monk in the same realm, and the alchemy left by Kongming Stone Monkey is extremely powerful. This kind of alchemy is very suitable for the friars who practice the idea of Sui Wang Temple to improve their mind. Originally, he was created by his sweetheart Zishi, but later, he was not as good as the Kunlun ruins and passed it on to Yi Tian. Such a powerful combination, Yi Tian's powerful mind laid a solid foundation for his time field arrangement. Yi Tian manipulated all kinds of spirit insects for a long time, and studied the sword array of Domitian. Unconsciously, he had already cultivated the technique of distraction and the technique of mana separation and control to the level of perfection. If these great friars of the Holy Wing clan can't use these two methods for a long time like Yi Tian, it's really very valuable to be able to understand such a realm unconsciously in 100 years.
For Yi Tian's words, many great friars of the Holy Wing clan bowed themselves together and said, "Yes, thank you for your instruction." Originally, the recognition of Yi Tian by these great friars of the Holy Wing clan was based on their seniority and respect for Sui Huan, which had nothing to do with Yi Tian's own cultivation and supernatural power. However, gradually, in addition to the established seniority, Yi Tian's strength made these great friars of the Holy Wing clan look at each other with new eyes. Yi Tian's image became more mysterious and tall in their hearts. Until now, Yi Tian's way of setting up the field has reached the level that we can look up to. These people are really convinced. It is no longer just out of the etiquette developed by the Xingyi people over the years that they respect Yi Tian, but from the heart. These great monks can feel Yi Tian's bone age, compare their ancestors with themselves, and think of the cultivation realm and strength they reached when they were as old as their ancestors. They can't help but blush. If the Grandmaster reached his age, what would he achieve? Almost all the great friars of the Holy Wing clan dare not imagine. Because they can't imagine what degree Yi Tian will reach, because Yi Tian may have reached the Jade Pu realm in less than 1/10 of his time, and the rest of the time is beyond their imagination. Their friars are only in the realm of Jade. If they go up, they may not have the insight Yi Tian has now. These people are interlinked, so thinking, cannot help but look at each other, eyes are full of shock look. Well, I'll go on with the arrangement. I'll ask any questions at any time. Now is a good opportunity. If I leave Lansang Lingyu, I'm afraid there will be no one to guide you. Yi Tian said, his eyes slowly swept the crowd, and then said, "Next, what I need to arrange is still the same as before. There are many complex fairy jade rune patterns, which are the basis of field arrangement." With these words, Yi Tian moves again, and the sleeves of his robes are still flying. Many Xianyu flies around with his gestures. Many great monks on the scene observed Yi Tian's technique and began to enter the state of perception. About half a day later, Yi Tian, who was always busy, suddenly stopped and said, "The basic runes have been arranged. Do you understand?" Lu Fang breathed out a long breath and said, "I don't know much about the field arranged by my Grandmaster." However, Lu Fang understands a lot about his Grandmaster's mana division technique. If this technique is applied to the enemy, it will have a lot of magical effects. It's true that what the disciple understood is also this kind of technique, but his understanding of the field is not very big. Another great friar of Yupu said. Yi Tian looks at other people. Except for the big monk who is familiar with the field, the rest are basically feeling Yi Tian's technique, not the field itself. It is the great monk who is familiar with the field that has made a qualitative leap in his understanding of the field in the past half a day, and only he will ask Yi Tian some questions about the field arrangement from time to time. Seeing this situation, Yi Tian just nodded, no matter how, as long as these people benefit from their freedom. Next, he focused on the guidance of the great monk of the Holy Wing clan who focused on learning the field. Look, the arrangement of the Immortal Jade rune pattern is completed, but only the Immortal Jade in the rune pattern is not good, so it cannot form the time field. Now what I want to do is to add some materials with time property to the rune. After the completion of each link, we can connect each rune. These are the key points. No matter how complex the arrangement of Xinyu rune pattern is, it is also a repeated process as long as you master all kinds of runes that need to be arranged in the field, and then insert the Xinyu into the designated position accurately, you will be finished. However, adding time attribute materials and other materials is very complicated, without too much repetition. Each different Xinyu rune pattern has different materials, and its position is also changeable. Next, you have to feel it carefully. With these words, Yi Tian moves again and arranges the materials on the ground one by one to the designated position with mana. Basically, Yi Tian had to explain 1 or 2 sentences for each decoration, and sometimes the great monk had to ask 1 or 2 questions. It's like a master telling his disciples how to teach them. But this kind of situation, Yi Tian teaches naturally. Those Saint Wing clan's big friars also did not feel some improper. However, some of the other holy winged people who always pay attention to the situation here are surprised. After all, Yi Tian is only the cultivation of Longmen realm, while Lu Fang and others have reached Yupu realm. This situation is really surprising. But Yi Tian didn't care about that. He continued to set up the time field, together with instructing the only great monk who could learn how to set up the field. Next, his speed gradually continued to slow down, until another day later, when the mass of materials on the ground were exhausted, Ye Kai stopped so far. Even if the arrangement is completed, from now on, the cultivation time of the Holy Wing clan will double. Chief Lu, it's your problem how to make use of this field. Remember, the huge crisis that you can't see now and don't know when it will suddenly come. I hope you don't slack off. When Yan, Lu Fang and others first face a joy, and then hard as a lin, a strong sense of crisis once again filled the heart. The rest is simple. We need to excite the time field in this way, Yi Tian said later. With that, he made a gesture, and a mana shot deep into the ground, hitting a field rune position. As the mana sinks into the soil, a light suddenly comes out from a place several miles around Yi Tian. At the same time, there is a buzzing sound. Then the sound disappears and the light disappears. Everything is back to what it was before. Well, the time field has been successfully started. There is no obvious start sign in the time field after it is started. It can't be seen from the surface. This is different from the attack field and the defense field. Yi Tian explained. Sure enough, you can feel the difference. You see, the speed of those spiritual talents being blown by the wind is twice as fast as before. This shows that the time velocity in the field is twice as slow. Slightly feeling the situation outside the field, Lu Fang nodded excitedly. www.novelhall.com. Next, you try to set up your own time field in the medicine garden, so that you can give directions at any time while I'm here. Or, you can set up a time field to transplant some urgently needed and important talents into it. In a word, it is to deal with it by oneself. At this time, Yi Tian said, I'll have to trouble the Grandmaster, but we need a lot of materials to set up this time field. We have to prepare for it. Fortunately, the clan has accumulated a lot of materials over the years, all of which are available. Lu Fang said that he ordered several great friars around him, and then those people said hello to Yi Tian and left here to prepare materials. Lu Fang said to Yi Tian again, Grandmaster, although I haven't seen his master's Dan Dao attainments, I can infer from his familiarity with these spiritual materials. Although the years of Linkai in the medicine garden are limited, many kinds of Linkai can't be seen in the outside world. After countless years of cultivation, the number of each kind of Linkai has a large scale. If you need something, just use it. Well, there are a lot of talents in it, which are really useful to me, so I'm not polite. Even if Lu Fang doesn't talk about it, Yi Tian will definitely do it. Since Lu Fang takes the initiative to put it forward, Yi Tian will not be polite. During his previous observation in the medicine garden, he already knew what kind of spiritual material he would use. If he didn't have any spiritual material, he would at least take one. If there are a lot of the same kind of spiritual materials in the medicine garden, he doesn't mind taking a few more. Then I'll take it from here. Yi Tian looked around the medicine garden, motioned and took out a magic weapon cave. Disciples, come out. With Yi Tian's call, 12 male and female disciples came out and bowed to Yi Tian. Among Yi Tian's 15 disciples, except Xuanxie and Yunzhong, only Xian is not here. Even Bihuan, who was the lowest in the realm, came out of the cave. Seeing the appearance of so many disciples of the Patriarch, Lu Yu and other great friars of the Holy Wing clan also came to salute after their teachers and disciples saw the ceremony. Ancestors are here, please be worshipped by the disciples. Nieba, Jinji, Yuya and others were startled when they heard that although their realm was not high, they often met the great friars of Yupu realm. Naturally, they knew that these people with the same appearance as Kunlun Xiu had reached Yupu realm. The great friars saluted them, but they didn't dare to ask him to do so, and they hastened to return the salute. Although they also have wings, the Kunlun practitioners' cultivation level is too low for them to accept in front of their ancestors. At ordinary times, the disciples who saw the great friar in Yupujing would have to kneel down to salute. They were given so many gifts by the great friar. It was like a dream. In the face of so many great monks saluting, these disciples in the Golden Elixir realm suddenly seemed at a loss. One of the most flustered is Bihuan, a humble disciple who used to be a maid of the Qin family in Lanfeng City. By chance, she met Yi Tian and became Yi Tian's disciple. Since then, she has ascended to the sky step by step, with a huge amount of cultivation resources and the guidance of famous teachers, and has entered the country rapidly. In the past, if she saw the predecessors of Yuanyingjing and Washingjing, she would be scared. Suddenly, so many great friars of Yupujing called her grandmaster and saluted her, she would almost cry. In particular, these great friars are not ordinary human friars, but holy wing great friars who make all human friars turn pale. Other disciples may feel a little more shallow. Bihuan is a local monk in Lanzhang Lingyu. Knowing the power and status of Xingyi people, she immediately hurriedly and energetically reciprocates. How lovely she looks. Well, now that you've seen the ceremony, Bihuan, don't be too restrained. We'll be one family in the future. Seeing Bihuan like this, Tian said with a dumb smile. Yes, master. Bihuan secretly looks at Tian and returns shyly. His inner shock still hasn't been dispelled. Up to now, she is still murmuring in her heart, what's her fate? How can she have such a powerful master? I call you out today. One thing is to meet with the Holy Wing people. The other thing is to help you collect some spiritual materials. Tian said, gesture after gesture, continuously take out the magic weapon cave, then put it in the time field. Until more than a dozen of them were taken out one after another, Lu Fang and other great friars of the Holy Wing clan could not help but slightly change their faces. You know, in the Lanzhang spiritual realm, different from the Great Wilderness spiritual realm, the magic cave is extremely valuable. Although these great friars of the Holy Wing have a magic cave, no one of other people, even the Holy Wing, can own one. But Tian unexpectedly took out more than a dozen, so wealth, let people in the heart can't help secretly said strange. However, Tian's action did not stop. Instead, he continued to take the magic weapon cave from Shumi commandment. I took out more than 40 of them, and then I stopped. There are more than 40 magic weapon caves, which are arranged in succession, occupying a large area. At a glance, it looks like a splendid architectural community. Grandmaster, what is this? Lu Fang asked curiously. Tian pointed to those magic cave. These are my mobile medicine garden. Naturally, the transplanted spirit materials should be directly moved into the medicine garden. Lu Fang and others looked at each other in amazement. They were shocked. Who could have thought that such a precious magic weapon cave in Lanzhang Lingyu was used as a mobile medicine garden by the ancestor? If you want to talk about violence, that's all. However, they soon repressed their surprise. After all, Sui Wan's disciples could not be reasonable. Grandmaster, I'm afraid that so many mobile pharmacies only rely on the efforts of these grandmasters. I'm afraid it will take a long time. Why don't we call some clansmen to help transplant them together? Looking at the magic weapon cave and the 12 disciples of Tian, Lu Fang said softly. But Tian waved his hand and said, don't bother the Holy Wing people. I have enough people here. With these words, Tian takes out another magic weapon cave. With the rapid enlargement of the cave, he comes out with more than 20 men and women, including Xiao Yunxian's Siyu. Master Xiao Yunxian was surprised to see so many Kunlun practitioners here, but she led them to salute Tian for the first time. Don't be polite. Tian nodded slightly, then took out a magic weapon cave again. This time out came the 100 Jindan dead men. See the Holy Sun. Like the 20 retinues, the 100 dead men were surprised that there were so many great friars with wings, but they saluted Tian for the first time. What they called in their mouth was still the Holy Sun they used to call. Lu Fang and others once again looked at each other in surprise, but also felt that the patriarch was a bit unfathomable. There are so many disciples in the Golden Elixir realm, as well as the male and female friars servants in the Golden Elixir realm. However, the evil spirits of these friars in Jindanjing called their grandmaster Holy Sun. They saw that the grandmaster had another identity they didn't know. Tian didn't introduce you to each other. After a simple salute, Tian said, everyone, I call you out to help transplant the spirit material. Only the spirit material I designated can be transplanted, and the rest of the spirit material can't be moved. Pay attention, don't damage any spirit material, or I will be very unhappy. Yes. Everyone agreed. Tian nodded slightly, his body moved forward, and his fingers pointed out one after another. All of a sudden, the magic power hit some spiritual talents and made a small hole. These are transplanted into the magic cave. At his command, someone immediately fell down and carefully transplanted the spirit material designated by Yi Tian from the medicine garden. Then he returned to the magic cave and planted the 7-color spirit soil. Lu Fang and others also follow Yi Tian's side, pointing out to Yi Tian from time to time, for fear that Yi Tian is embarrassed to take more. At the beginning, Yi Tian's speed was still very fast. Because of this piece of spiritual material, he had already explored it with his mind, and he had already made preparations in his heart. In the distance, he gradually slows down the speed of selecting talents. He even has to consider some talents before deciding which one to choose. www.novelhall.com, the fastest. Among them, some of them are still isolated up to now because of their special habits. Yi Tian couldn't take the isolated plant away. According to the different spiritual materials, he took the root or stem by himself, and then planted it in the cave medicine garden to ensure its survival. Grandmaster, can this fruit be planted? This situation surprised Lu Fang and others. When Yi Tian took down the root of a spirit fruit again, Lu Fang asked in surprise. You know, this kind of fruit is extremely precious, but there is only one fruit tree in the herb garden. Once they tried their best to cultivate more, but they failed in the end. Yes, of course. Yi Tian nodded slightly. Lu Fang hesitated and said, Grandmaster, the disciples have tried this method several times, but none of them survived. If Grandmaster wants this method, I'm afraid it will be difficult to succeed. When Yi Tian heard the words, he said with a smile, if you take roots and plant them directly, you will not survive. If you want to plant successfully, you need other materials. One of the main materials to ensure the success of the spirit tree is Zaohua liquid. With the lake water containing Lingqi and Huakai Zaohua liquid, you can ensure the success of planting. However, in order to make the spirit tree grow rapidly, it is necessary to bury 3 kinds of fairy jade, such as wood property, soil property and water property, in the root part. In this way, Qingtian fruit tree can survive naturally. It turns out that there are so many ways. If the Grandmaster didn't say it, we would never have thought of it. It's just the first time that we've heard of it. I don't know how to get it. Lu Fang suddenly said. Yi Tian said with a smile, the liquid is made from the fruit of Zaohua. Without hundreds or thousands of years, the effect will not reach the best state. Few people know about it, but I happen to have some on me. I'll send you 3 drops. Remember to use the water from the lake. The amount of water from 1 drop is calculated according to the irrigation area of 1000 mu. Besides cultivating spiritual materials, this liquid is also a holy medicine for healing. It can also instantly restore mana. As long as the injured person does not die, it can be healed. You can also use this liquid as the main material for refining healing pills. 1 drop of Zaohua liquid can refine 100 healing pills, which are 100 times more effective than the pills without using Zaohua liquid. With these words, Yi Tian made a gesture, and 3 drops of nature liquid wrapped in medicine film appeared in his hand, which was sent to Lu Fang. Lu Fang hesitated and said, Grandmaster, this is too valuable. Every magical effect that Grandmaster said is of great use to Grandmaster. How can we easily accept such treasures? But Yi Tian waved his hand disapprovingly, it's okay, I still have some here. You should use it carefully, and the relationship between the Cloud family and the Xian family must be handled well, and provide enough help when necessary. In the future, if there is a catastrophe, you can keep watch and help each other. Yes, please follow the instructions of your ancestors. When Lu Fang heard the speech, he put away the liquid and bowed himself to accept the order. Also, if it's convenient, help me find the whereabouts of another lotus root. In a short time, I don't have any more time. Yi Tian continued. Well, the disciples must take it as a top priority. Lu Fang said in a hurry. However, Yi Tian waved his hand and said, the first priority of the Xingyi clan is to improve their strength as soon as possible. The Sanqing and Sanqilian can't be obtained by all efforts. But by chance, you just pay attention to them. You can't spend too much effort on this matter, otherwise you won't get what you lose. I understand. Lu Fang nodded silently. Although he said so, he used his heart secretly. Next, Yi Tian returns to the magic cave with the root beard of Qing Tian fruit, carefully plants it, and then continues to collect other spiritual materials. In this way, time goes by bit. In the imperceptible passage of time, 5 days in a hurry, the 5 days of time, Yi Tian has always been collecting a variety of spiritual materials. Hundreds of miles of space, there are countless kinds of linkai, some of the large number of linkai, Yi Tian also ruthless, one-time transplant a lot. 5 days later, Yi Tian's more than 40 mobile pharmacies have all been planted with transplanted spiritual materials. Yi Tian also looked at all the spiritual materials in the space, and all the spiritual materials were transplanted by him, but these spiritual materials are too few years to be used for the time being, so he can only wait for them to grow up slowly, and only when the years are enough can they be used to refine pills. Even so, this time Yi Tian's harvest has been regarded as a great harvest. In the spiritual realm of the Great Wilderness, he took 50 magic weapon caves, which was totally on a whim. After all, it was too common for magic weapon caves to get in the Great Wilderness. At that time, he would never have thought that one day, these 50 magic caves would become a real mobile medicine garden full of all kinds of rare spiritual materials. Just because there are tens of thousands of spiritual materials inside, Yi Tian has a long memory to know what spiritual materials he has planted. At the end of the transplantation, the great friar of the Holy Wing clan, who is familiar with the field, has begun to arrange the time field for some of the talents. It has to be said that the Xingyi clan has a very rich foundation. In just 5 days, they have collected enough materials to set up a 100-li square field. Of course, this field cannot be a single field, but a lot of small fields connected, and accumulated a 100-li range. The materials they collected are endless. Seeing so many materials, Yi Tian had an idea. He didn't rush to leave here, so he used these materials and began to arrange the time field for his magic weapon cave. Since there are so many linkai planted, Yi Tian must hope that they can grow rapidly. Now that there are enough materials, it is the best time to arrange the time field. When Yi Tian set up the time field, the Saint Wing monk who set up the field in the medicine garden also encountered some unexpected difficulties. At this time, he stopped and went into the medicine garden to continue to watch Yi Tian set up the field. In this way, many problems encountered in the actual operation can be easily solved after watching. In a twinkling of an eye, more than a month has passed. So far, Yi Tian has arranged all the magic weapon caves in the time field, and after more than 40 times of observation, the great monk of the Holy Wing clan has also soared to the sky, fully mastering the essentials of arranging the field. It's easy and natural to decorate again. It's just a long way to go to reach Yi Tian's weightlifting level and speed. On this day, Yi Tian took all the magic medicine gardens into Zumaji and looked at the many great friars of the Holy Wing clan who were always around him. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no feast that never ends. It's time to stay here for more than a month, and it's time to leave. Grandmaster, can you stay a few more days? Lu Feng, with a trace of reluctance in his eyes, sincerely urged him to stay and said, "Please see, Grandmaster, those clansmen are so sweet together that they must be reluctant to leave now." Yi Tian doesn't have to look to know what Lu Feng is referring to. He brought his own Kunlun cultivation. Unexpectedly, more than 30 people have found their own Taoist partners here. In the past month, although Yi Tian spent most of his time in arranging the field in the cave, pairs of figures flying around in the space were still covered by his thoughts. After all, this space is too small, only a few hundred miles around. However, this kind of situation can't change Yi Tian's mind. He shook his head firmly and said, "The Earth star crisis has not been solved, I can't delay any longer. We must set out today. As for the Holy Wing people, let them go or stay according to their original intention." See Yi Tiantai heart to go. Lu Feng also did not continue to retain, but took out a Shumi ring, handed to Yi Tian in front. "Grandmaster, other things in the Holy Wing clan may not be able to enter the Grandmaster's eyes." During this period, the clan collected 30,000 pieces of top-quality fairy jade, so it should be a gift for the Grandmaster. This kind of thing is not very useful for the Holy Wing, but it may play a greater role for the ancestors. 30,000? Hearing this number, Yi Tian was also surprised. www.novelhall.com, the